is suing her former roommate, 19-year-old Elizabeth Peterson, for cable bills and an apartment transfer fee.
Order. All rise. Yeah, it's case number 570 in the matter of DeLay versus Peterson.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Ms. DeLay, you and the defendant were friends throughout high school, and no quicker way to destroy a friendship very often than to become roommates in college. Two of you decided to share an apartment together. You signed a lease to a two-bedroom apartment. It didn't work out, and you both moved out.
Correct.
You paid the transfer fee, allowing each of you to move into a one-bedroom apartment. You want Ms. Peterson to be responsible for half of that transfer fee, plus her part of the cable bill that you say was in your name.
Yes.
Ms. Peterson says that your behavior and things that went on in the apartment made it impossible to stay there. She says that you wanted to move out, so you pay the transfer fee. And as far as the cable is concerned, she says you put a password on there that precluded her from using the internet and cable. She has no intention of paying it. She's counterclaiming for some nonsense. She wants you to return all the rent she paid because she didn't have a good time. Well, that's about what it is. So that's ridiculous. But I'll let you explain it to me in a very short period of time.
Okay.
Okay. When did you move into the apartment?
We signed the lease July 8th, and I moved in July 8th.
And Ms. Peterson moved in 2 months later.
Correct.
Okay. When did you sign the transfer agreement?
I don't have the exact date, but it was end of January. I moved into my new apartment, I believe, end of January, early February.
All right. So that Ms. Peterson lived there September, October, November, December. And when did you move out?
I moved out on the 16th of January.
Now, you're going to explain to me, Ms. Peterson, why you are not responsible for one half of the transfer fee that permitted the two of you to go your separate ways. You were both unhappy, correct?
Yes.
Both unhappy. You explain to me why you should not be responsible for half that transfer fee.
Okay. Back in July, in the summer, Veronica expressed to me that she wanted me to find a new roommate to cover her half of the lease. And I went forward with that, and I found a roommate.
In July?
In July, before we were even living together, because of the cable internet bill, because I said I wasn't going to pay it. Because I didn't need it. I don't watch TV, and I had friends who were moving upstairs who said I could use their internet or I could go down to the common room where they offer it for free. So I found a roommate, and in the end of August, the first weekend before school, I spoke to Veronica, and she said, oh, I'm not moving out anymore. So.
And in September, you stayed?
I did, because I had no choice.
Fine, you stayed.
Right.
But things were not good.
No. In November, I moved most of my things upstairs to my friend's apartment, and I was hardly ever at the apartment. If I was, I locked myself in my room because I didn't feel comfortable with her and her boyfriend being there all the time. I was scared, and I felt harassed and threatened by her.
Listen to me. Then you should be very happy that she said, let's sign off on this lease, and it'll cost us each $600.
Well,
and then we're out of each other's hair.
Well, at that point, I was so frustrated with everything I had been put through that...
Get unfrustrated. Get unfrustrated and grow up. It wasn't good. It wasn't a good situation.
Well, can I say something?
Yeah, say whatever you want to say.
My mom and my father and I all discussed commuting because we didn't want to give Veronica any more money. I had paid for her boyfriend to sleep over multiple times. I was never there.
Listen to me.
It was like having a third roommate, though.
I don't care. Listen, your parents care if you're unhappy.
Right.
Your parents care. Courts don't care if you're unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
Courts don't care if you don't like her boyfriend sleeping over. They don't care.
Well, there's a clause in the lease that says that no person can stay more than 14 nights, and I kept track on a calendar, and it exceeded the 14 nights, and we got a possible eviction notice from it.
Yeah.
Your Honor,
Just a second.
Okay.
All of that suggests to me that you should be very happy to find a new place all by yourself.
I wasn't even living there, though, at that point.
That's your choice.
Right.
That's your choice. What do you want?
I wanted to say something on Elizabeth's defense, Your Honor.
That?
I'm her mother, and on December 16th, my husband and I went into the peninsula. We hooked up the cable and the TV and the DVD player. And
because Veronica would no longer
just a
let me
second.
use hers.
Right. Elizabeth wasn't able to use it. We went downstairs and we met with the Peninsula management, and we wanted Veronica to sign off the lease. That's what we needed, so we wouldn't be responsible for the apartment any longer. And what we were going to do was have Elizabeth commute. So there was no reason for us to pay a transfer fee. But Veronica is the one that wanted to move out. She wanted her own apartment. And yes, we did want that
Your daughter wasn't staying there. She wasn't staying there because she was unhappy. Either she breaks the lease or she signs a transfer agreement. Those are the options.
But that was the option for Veronica, too. She could have broken the lease.
Just to say, she could have. This is a much better thing to do, rather than breaking the lease, to sign an orderly transfer agreement so that the landlord doesn't say, I'm stuck because they broke the lease. What I want to do is I want to move into another place. This is what it's going to cost. Otherwise, I'm on the hook for the entire year lease from January until the following June.
But I didn't trust that Veronica would do anything. She hadn't done it in the past.
I don't care what you trusted. Right now, it's a fait accompli. It's done. Your daughter is responsible for half the transfer fee on the apartment. There's no issue with regard to that. The only issue that I have for you, Ms. DeLea, is did you have a password or any device that precluded the defendant from using the internet and or cable?
I had a password.
Just a second. That's either a yes or a no.
On the internet, yes.
Did she say to you at any point, I'm not interested in cable?
She told me in November.
That's either a yes or a no.
In November, yes.
What month's cable do you think she's responsible for half of?
September through January.
She's not.
Okay.
She's not responsible for any of those.
Your Honor, she disconnected my cable in December, and even though I was still paying for it, prevented me from watching it.
I don't care. There has to be a contract. There has to be an agreement.
Your Honor, I have
Listen to me very carefully.
Yes, ma'am.
There has to be a contract and an agreement.
I have one.
For
I
whom?
have an email, her writing that she would be responsible for half of all the cable and internet and electric bills.
Just a second. Did you tell me that you put a password so she could not use the internet?
There was a password on it originally, but... Excuse me.
I'm asking your daughter a question. Sit. You too.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Veronica DeLea says her former roommate, Elizabeth Peterson, owes for cable bills and an apartment transfer fee. Elizabeth is countersuing for the return of rent and harassment.
I'm asking whether she told you she wasn't going to use the internet, and you put a password on there that precluded her from tapping into the internet in your apartment.
I was required to put a password on the internet from the beginning, so yes, there was a password.
Did she have it?
No, ma'am.
Then she's not responsible for it.
Okay.
But she's responsible for half the transfer fee.
I just have...
Put your hand down.
Okay.
Stop being a baby. That's what you're responsible for. Just tell me what half the transfer fee is.
Half the transfer is $625.
Fine. You owe her $625 for that. Now, you want to give me your counterclaim in 30 seconds or less?
I have a breakdown of the
I'm not
counterclaim.
interested in your breakdown. Yeah, you have 30 seconds or less to tell me about your counterclaim, which is nonsense.
Well, my countersuit was because Veronica was using drugs in the apartment, and I'm on a full scholarship at my school, and that really, I could have lost my scholarship if she got caught at the apartment because we both signed the lease.
But you didn't.
No, we didn't. But one of the security guards approached me saying that he
You
smelled.
can't tell me anything that a security guard
I
told you.
have a report from him.
You can't tell me anything that anybody else said to you or wrote out in a statement that is hearsay. Do you have a police report?
I talked to the lieutenant of the police station because the security guard had him come down.
That's hearsay.
Well, I called and they didn't have a report. I was very surprised.
Oh, fine. Listen, you happy now with your new roommates?
Yes, but I'm
Fabulous.
unhappy that my scholarship was in jeopardy.
Well,
and it was like having a third roommate there
Listen
at the
to me,
apartment.
my dear. Did you lose your scholarship?
No.
Good. You owe her $625 transfer fee, and your counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She demanded that I had to ask her permission for every visitor.
But I asked just in case I had a test the next day because the walls are paper thin, you can hear everything through them.
We had to divide the cabinets in the kitchen.
I asked for one cabinet to put all my snacks in because I eat all organic.
I don't know. She just went crazy, pretty much.
She just doesn't care, so I'm going to live with people who aren't as selfish.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Polk versus Eskine. Step forward, please.
Victor Polk is suing the mother of his son's friend, Renata Eskine, for the cost to fix his car. Victor says Renata's son, 17-year-old Kerry Thomas, damaged the vehicle when he tried to jump over it.
Who jumped over the car? Raise your hand.
I did.
Stand over there. Mr. Polk, it is your claim that the defendant damaged your car.
Yes, ma'am.
He was playing a game with your son. I assume your son is sitting over there?
Yes, ma'am. That's Valentina.
And the game was to jump over your car.
Yeah.
Mrs. Eskind's son jumped over your car, landed on your car, dented your car. You want him to pay for your car.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Mrs. Eskind has some ridiculous defense. She says that your son goaded her son into jumping over the car.
That's correct.
That's wrong. Nobody goads somebody into doing something that's wrong and doesn't take responsibility.
He took responsibility.
Then he has to take responsibility for paying for the damage that he caused to the car. Reasonable?
Reasonable.
Great. So the only question is how much, right?
No, ma'am.
Why?
Because he didn't jump it alone, and he wasn't involved in it alone. They did it together. Both parents are both.
Just a second, Miss Eskind. Are you telling me that this young man jumped on and damaged the car?
Yes.
Okay, you. Talk to me.
Tell him.
You talk to me.
Well, we were outside one October night. With me,
Listen,
him. And so.
I don't care if it was an October night, whether it was starry or not. All I want to know is you, an idiot over here, were playing a game of jumping over a car. Which idiot fell on the car?
I slid into the car.
Not him.
No, ma'am.
Then your mother is wrong. Put your hand down. Miss Eskind, I'm telling you what the law is. That's why you're here. Not what you feel in your gut as a mother. What the law is. He was lucky. He didn't cause damage to the car. He wasn't lucky. He did cause damage to the car.
The mother caused damage also.
No, my dear. Not according to your son. You don't have your listening ears on. Not according to your son. According to your son, the only one that went into the car, slid into the car, was him. That's what he told me. So your thinking process, while understandable that the boys are playing and they should both be responsible, is not what the law is. The law does not prescribe that he has to pay for damage that he did, because he can say, no, I'm not doing it. You want to do it to your father's car? That's fine. No, I'm not doing it. And if he didn't do it, then there wouldn't be damage to the car. Is that right, Mr. Eskind?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The only question I have for you...
Yes,
I'm not
sir,
finished, Your Honor.
You're finished. The only question I have for you, sir, is, I looked very carefully at your complaint. You said that initially it wasn't such a big deal, but then you realized that you had just had the car in a custom paint job.
Yes, ma'am.
Because it's a designer car. What kind of car is it?
Vintage 1991 Ford Mustang 5.0 convertible.
Okay. This incident happened on what date?
We don't have a date.
What date?
October the 10th.
I want to see the bill for painting the car prior to October 10th.
My initial paint job, my painter.
Don't give me a big story.
I don't have
Mr. Polk.
I don't have the receipt.
That's my problem.
The painter that painted my car, his name's Carlos. He's in America on a work visa from Mexico. I went back to Carlos to see if he could get me a receipt. Our business was cash-based, so therefore he did not...
Show me a withdrawal from your bank for $2,300.
I don't have a withdrawal
Then I don't
receipt.
believe you, sir. Then I don't believe that you spent $2,300 to paint your car. That's my problem. Got what I mean? I want to see a picture of the damage to the car.
Sure. These are before and after pictures. If you take a look at the paint job on that car, you'll see that it's an immaculate paint job.
It may be an immaculate paint job, sir. You should have gotten me a receipt.
Why is it in the front yard?
Just a second. I'm not speaking to you.
I was showing it off.
Put your hand down.
I'm proud of
you.
my car.
Why is it in the front yard?
Well, this whole fender has to be painted. There's no question about that. And it has to be fixed. There's a dent in it. Now I'll see your estimates to fix it. Oh, so this time you took it to a Chevrolet place.
Yes.
The first time you took it to an all-cash guy.
Carlos is no longer in Nashville, in my hometown.
Yeah, you're going to have to get it done for less. What do you want?
Your Honor, he's been working on this car for 5 years. He redid the inside
I've got
of it.
more than $10,000.
Let me ask you
invested
this
in
question,
car.
sir. Did you discuss with your child the game he was playing over your car?
Oh, yes, I did.
I want you to tell me about the discussion that you were having with the idiot about jumping over the car.
I told him that it was a ridiculous thing to do.
And what did he say to you?
He said he wasn't thinking. And that's the only explanation. Unless, would you like to get up and tell her?
Yes, ma'am. Can I get up there and talk to you quick?
Be my pleasure.
Well, first place, I didn't jump over the car at all. Like, I'm sorry. But the whole thing started, like, when we were playing basketball.
If you say anything, a sentence with the word like in it, you can sit down.
Okay. This is what happened. We started playing basketball, and I bet him. I was like, I bet you I can jump over my dad's car.
Sit down. I don't want to hear anymore. You're an idiot.
Man, can I tell you, can I finish real quick?
Sit down. Just sit down. Mrs. Eskind has to pay for your car, sir, but she's not going to pay any more for the car than I think it's worth, because I don't think that you have to have the whole car repainted.
You do not understand how much time and effort and money I've sunk into this car.
Your son should have been more careful with it.
I cannot.
Listen to me. Your son should have been more careful with it.
I understand that.
Good. Shouldn't have been playing basketball around it. You think it would have gotten dented if a basketball hit it?
That's why I don't let them play basketball near my car.
It was right in the yard, by the street.
Did I ask you anything? You're responsible because he's responsible. He's bigger than you are.
I never said I wasn't.
Good. Okay, now what's the piece of paper you want to show me?
This is the very first estimate he brought to me.
That I'll see.
On the night of the
That I'll
election,
see.
of the president election. I told him I did not mind working with him on half of those damages.
So is what you're telling me that the first estimate is just Price's Collision Center was $614.42?
Correct.
This is what he gave you first?
Yes.
Can you explain the disparity to me, sir, between $614.42 and the $2,300 you want now?
That is just for replacement of the fender. It is not for matching of the paint or anything like that.
That's not true. It says
she told
paint.
me on our
That's
initial.
not true. But that's not. Hey, that's not true. It says paint, labor, 3.4 hours at $38 an hour, $129. Body labor, 3 hours, $114. Parts, $219. It has everything here. It all adds up to $614.42.
The car could not be painted on just the fender.
I don't know that, sir, at all. That's your first
received that.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $614.42. That's all.
28-year-old waiter John Hayden Jr. for totaling her car. Bree says John is a con artist.
Yeah, this is case number 26 on the calendar in the matter of Berry versus Hayden Jr. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Berry, Mr. Hayden was your live-in boyfriend until
Yes,
a while
ma'am.
back, and according to your complaint, he took your car without permission one day, drove it. You don't know what happened, but he says he fell asleep at the wheel and he totaled your car. You want the value of that car because you say you were forced to purchase another car, and your monthly payments have, of course, increased as a result of purchasing the new car.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hayden says that he had an agreement with you.
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
right?
Yes.
And that he doesn't owe you anything for the new car. So he's going to tell me all about that agreement in a moment, and I am anxiously awaiting to hear the details of it.
Me too.
Good. We'll all wait together. When did you live with Mr. Hayden, Miss Berry?
I lived with them for about 3 months from at the end of December until about the end of February.
Had you known him for a while before he moved in with you?
We used to go to high school together.
What prompted you to move in together?
I was conned into it. John is a very good con artist.
How were you conned into it?
He figured that we could help each other out by, he didn't have anywhere to stay at that time, and he was working and that he could help me with my bills, and that's not how it happened.
So he moved into your apartment?
Yes, ma'am, just like that. Conned his way right in.
When did he take your car and total it?
It was on February 11th.
Tell me about that, Mr. Hayden.
Well, I did have permission to drive the car. I drove the
Your
car.
Honor.
I had my own set of keys. I drove the car on several occasions. And
Okay, tell me about February 11th, sir.
February 11th, I woke up like I normally did and went to my where I have to go.
Just a second. Oh, shh, listen to me. February 11th, Judge, I woke up at...
Judge, I woke up...
No, look at me here.
I woke up around 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
And you got out of bed?
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me.
Shh, I don't want to hear you yet. He's talking. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. You got out of...
I got out of bed.
And who was in bed with you? Look at me. Eyes.
The plaintiff.
Are you sure? Don't speak. Remember what day of the week it was, sir?
It was probably around the end of the week.
Are you sure about that?
As sure as I can be.
What do you mean as sure as you can be?
Because,
Mr. Hayden, I assume you work, right?
I did work until probably 2 weeks ago.
Fine. You were working on February 11th because
Yes.
you started to say to me before, I got up my usual time and I was going to do usual things, so I assume you got up 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning because you were going to...
To my rehabilitation.
What kind of rehabilitation, sir? Is not an answer.
Well, I'd rather not go into it.
Well, you have to tell me, sir, what you were doing, because I'm going to ask you specific questions, and I don't give a rat's behind what you prefer not to go into. Put your hand down.
I was going to get my treatment for my methadone.
Okay, so you were going to your methadone program.
Yes.
I've heard that before, sir. You know, I've been a judge for a long time. You have a morning methadone program?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And where had you been the night before, sir?
At home.
All night?
Yes, ma'am.
So you got up 6 or 7 o'clock to go and get your methadone at the program. And you were, in fact, working. So where were you working?
At Uno's Pizzeria on Beachmont Avenue.
What time do they open?
Around 11 o'clock.
What time do you do at your methadone program?
Anywhere between 6 and...
Look at my eyes.
10.
So what were you doing getting up at 6 o'clock, sir, when you didn't have to be at the pizza place until 11?
Because sometimes I go in early so I can get a few extra hours in.
Good. So you were being conscientious.
Yes, I worked 3 doubles a week plus the other days that I worked. I worked 6 days a week. 3 of them were doubles and 3 of them were regular days.
All right. So you got up between 6 and 7. And you had your own set of keys to the car. You got into the car. And what happened, Mr. Hayden? I
was traveling on my way to the clinic, and I fell asleep at the wheel.
Well, according to you, you'd been home the whole night before. Well, how come you fell asleep at the wheel?
Well, not real sure. I've had problems in the past with driving, falling asleep.
How many times in the past have you had problems driving?
Well, I've never actually wrecked from it, but, you know, I've had several close calls.
And when was that?
Years past.
Not when you were with Miss Berry?
No.
Did you ever tell Miss Berry before she gave you permission to use the car according to you and gave you your own set of keys to the car that you've had near misses with falling asleep at the wheel?
I'm sure she was aware.
No, I didn't ask you that question, Mr. Hayden. And I want you to trust me, sir. On your best day, you're not as smart as I am on my worst day. Did you ever tell her that you had near misses of falling asleep at the wheel of a car?
I'm not sure.
Good, that's an answer. Did he ever tell you that?
No, ma'am.
Of course not. Now, was this Miss Berry's only means of transportation, or did she have a garage full of cars?
She had 2 vehicles.
Tell me about the 2 vehicles that she had.
One was a Taurus and the Civic.
And which car were you driving?
The Civic.
Is that the car you were driving, the Taurus?
No, ma'am. I had a 95 Taurus that had been broken down for a couple months. My only means of transportation was the Honda Civic.
Okay. Miss Berry, tell me about the 10th of February, which was the day before this incident happened.
The 10th of February, ma'am, I was getting tired of being in this little relationship with John because he wasn't working like he said he was. And I had asked him that, you know, pretty soon you need to find somewhere to go. You need to, you know, go live off somebody else. So he had called me from work and asked me to come home so that we could talk about it. And when I got home, about 11 or 12, and John was already drunk and nodding out, because that's one thing that I couldn't stand about him, is that he would always nod out, and he's burnt my furniture on the floor. So anyways, he slept on the couch that night. I slept in the bed. I woke up the next morning. My keys are gone. I always leave my purse next to my bed. I always take my purse everywhere I go. The keys were gone. I got a phone call about 11 from an officer stating that John Hayden was in the hospital, that he had totaled my car. So I called down to the hospital, and John just acted like everything would be all right, that he totaled my car.
So what you're saying is he had driven your car before. There's no question about that. Is that right?
Yes, but he did not have an extra set of keys.
But he had driven your car before, with your permission?
Not with my permission. I would get up in the morning and he would take it.
Well, then what you have to do is you change the locks and you put him out of your house.
That's too much.
Shh. You change the locks, you put him out of your house if he's stealing your car.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You don't do that if you're a responsible parent of a 5-year-old.
She's not a responsible parent.
No, and you're a model citizen.
At least I just use, I don't sell.
And later today,
For her receipts that day, there were 18 meals that there were no drinks charged on.
She said she forgot.
Right, but 180 times, she didn't forget to take her tips home.
Right.
She forgot to charge for sodas.
It was just lazy.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bree Berry says ex-boyfriend John Hayden Jr. totaled her car. John says he fell asleep at the wheel on his way to a methadone clinic.
Now there is something that you're going to tell me that would suggest that you had an agreement with her with regard to a new car. So why don't you tell me about that?
After the car was totaled, we agreed that if she was able to get a new car, which she had no job except for about 2 or 3 weeks.
That's a lie.
So
It doesn't matter if I work or not.
Miss Berry, what part of don't speak don't you understand?
I'm sorry.
When you're on welfare, you can barely...
Oh, my...
I'm not asking you what she did. I'm asking you what your agreement was.
You can barely make your rent anyway. If it wasn't for me co-signing, she could have never got the car to begin with.
My mama...
Miss Berry, if you open your mouth again, I'm going to dismiss your claim.
Okay.
You don't want that, do you?
No, ma'am.
And I'm serious, you know. I don't say things and then take it back. Do you understand?
I understand.
Well, I want you to tell me the conversation that you had with Miss Berry, sir, with regard to your co-signing a loan for her.
I said, you put down the money you have as a down payment, and then I'll put down what I have, and if they let it go through with both of us being, with me being the co-signer, then you will have your car, and you will go from there.
Did she own the Civic free and clear?
I do not know.
As far as you know, she wasn't making payments because according to you, Miss Berry was on welfare. She could hardly make the rent.
Exactly.
So she wasn't making car payments. So what you're telling me is she took whatever little money she had, and you put in money. And how much money did you put in?
Probably $100.
And you put in $100. And then you co-signed a loan for her so that she could buy a new used car.
Yes.
And how much was the loan for?
About $8,000.
So what you're telling me is because you totaled her car, you obligated her to pay $8,000 for a vehicle to do whatever she had to do with it. Is that what you're telling me?
No.
Then tell me what you're telling me, Mr. Hayden. I'm listening.
I would have been more than happy to stay there with her and be, and help her make her car payments, but she cheated on me. When I called her before I came home because I couldn't get a hold of her one day, and she said, well, an ex-boyfriend of mine spent the night tonight, and I don't want you to come here trying to cause any problems. Granted, this is where I was living, paying bills, giving her money. I make about $500 or $600 a week, and, I just would give her money.
If you had, sir, $500 or $600 a week, why don't you get your own car?
Because I don't have a license.
So, Mr. Hayden, so you took her car and drove her car without a license?
I didn't know that at the time. I have an $80 reinstatement fee to pay, which I'm going through now.
Mr. Hayden, you got more stories than Damon Runyon. The fact that you tell me that I gave her $100 towards the car, did he give you $100 towards the car?
ma'am.
No, of course he didn't.
Oh, you're right.
I couldn't even pay.
Of course he didn't.
I had
Give
to
you
pay for
shh. What year car was this?
a 93.
Do you have the blue book value of it?
Yes, ma'am.
May I see it, please?
Would you like to see all the evidence or just that?
I'd like to see whatever you have, Miss Berry.
And I don't live in Section 8.
You move people in and out all the time.
Oh, goodness.
Ooh, this looks like some bad accident. What did you hit?
A telephone pole. And she didn't call to see if I was okay. She called to see if her car was okay.
That should have told you something,
Yeah,
Mr.
it
Hayden. Should have.
Yeah, she's self-centered, and karma will get her.
Car was more important than you were.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's
car
the
was
way it's
more-
always been with, that's what her psychiatrist tells her.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today,
So you look at that face and you see what?
I see charming, sweet, lovely
Yeah.
Amanda.
But when you look at that face, you say she's a thief.
Not looking at the face, but looking at the proof, I believe she's running a little scam on me.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bree Berry says ex-boyfriend John Hayden Jr. totaled her car. John says he fell asleep at the wheel on his way to a methadone clinic.
Mr. Hayden, let me tell you something. I don't find necessarily that the plaintiff's behavior is appropriate. I am assuming that you are now involved with somebody else?
Yes, ma'am. I was with drug use.
No, listen to me. I assume at least in part it was because of somebody else. Part of it may be because of his continued drug use, according to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Whatever. That is not a testament to your good judgment.
It's a bad judgment I made.
No, very bad. And I don't care whether you're exercising bad judgment if you're the only one involved, but you have a 5-year-old child. And you don't move somebody into your house for 1 hour who you claim is getting his methadone, but using in addition to that.
That's why I got rid of him.
Just a second. That's not true, madam, because according to you, after he came out of the hospital, you allowed him to move back into your home for a month. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And you don't do that if you're a responsible parent of a 5-year-old. You understand me?
Yes.
Good.
She's not a responsible parent.
No, and you're a model citizen.
More than her.
Okay.
At least I just use, I don't sell.
That may be, sir, but you still owe her $2,500 for the car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500.
Parties are excused.
Step out.
You may step
Bird,
out.
he can have his water later, please.
John Hayden is a good con artist.
I could really care less.
Anybody that John owes money to,
She's wrong.
you should take him on the Judge Judy show
Bree's a liar.
so you can get your money also.
This is over.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of McGinnis versus Carter. Step forward, please.
Restaurant owner Michael McGinnis is suing his former employee, 20-year-old student Amanda Carter, for stealing 180 sodas.
Mr. McGinnis, you own a restaurant, and the defendant was an employee of yours. She worked as a waitress. Your complaint is rather unique, sir. It is your claim that while she was employed by you, when she wrote out checks, she did not charge customers for sodas. According to you, based upon your calculations, approximately 180 sodas were not charged because you believe that it's impossible for people to have ordered that many meals without ordering a drink. And therefore, you claim that Ms. Carter stole from you and you want her to reimburse you in the amount of $315, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. When did you start to work for Mr. McGinnis, Ms. Carter?
The beginning of December.
And how long did you work for him?
I worked for him for 4 months.
What kind of restaurant is it?
It's a sports bar.
Is this your first job as a waitress?
No, it's not.
How old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
All right. So, Mr. McGinnis, tell me what makes you think that Ms. Carter stole from you.
My wife and I, Your Honor, went to a food show. We returned from the food show, and my wife checked receipts. And for her receipts that day, there were 18 meals that there were no drinks charged on.
Okay.
So the day before that, there were no drinks charged that day. But our policy is all meals, you charge drinks. I asked Amanda, why were there no drinks charged on the meals? And her reply was, I forgot.
She forgot to charge them.
She forgot to charge them.
Okay.
But the only thing that the server can get to themselves are sodas, chips and salsa. Everything else they have to order through the screen. But I just can't believe, Your Honor, that individuals are choking down cheeseburgers and nachos and burritos without drinking anything.
Well, she already told you. She said she forgot.
She forgot to charge.
Yeah, that's what she said. She said she forgot.
Right. But 180 times, she didn't forget to take her tips home. She didn't forget to pick up her check.
Right.
She forgot to charge for sodas, time after time.
When you do a check, how is the bill generated?
It's generated without the drink.
So the cost of the food itself comes off a computer.
Yes.
And then the server has to take an additional step before they add up the bill and add on 4 drinks,
Yes.
and then you total it.
Yes, Your Honor.
So she said to you, I forgot.
Yes.
And she's just lazy. Well, what do you think she was doing? You think she was serving these drinks and drinking them all herself?
No, Your Honor. I believe that she was serving the drinks and possibly telling the patron that she was buying the drinks for them in order to get a better tip.
That's a possibility. It's also a possibility she forgot, right?
I don't think so, Your Honor.
It's also, well, it's a possibility. It's just as possible as the scenario that you proposed, that she told all these 18 people on one day, I'm not charging you for drinks, you can add it to my tip, right?
Yes.
It's just as possible as that. You would prefer that I believe she's a thief.
Yes, I believe so.
So you look at that face and you see why?
I see charming, sweet, lovely
Yeah.
Amanda, very personable.
No, I'm asking you, but when you look at that face, you say she's a thief.
Well, not looking at the face, but looking at the proof, I believe she's running a little scam on me.
You didn't charge for the drinks, Amanda. How come you didn't charge for the drinks?
I didn't charge for the drinks because they simply weren't ordered. The bar area is first when you come into the restaurant, and many people came into the bar and bought their beer and their mixed drinks and such and purchased them from the bartenders and then made their way into the dining area where there are TVs where people like to come in and watch sports.
All right, but it's also possible, Amanda, that occasionally you let slip by
Oh, yeah,
certain
definitely.
drinks and didn't put it on the bill, right?
Yeah.
So that's a possibility.
Very big possibility, yes.
Do you ever tell people, listen, I'm not going to charge you for the sodas, so you could add it to my tip?
No, I've never done that.
Now, I can understand. You said to me, Amanda served those drinks, and she got the money for it and pocketed the money, and therefore she's a thief. But you're not saying that. You're saying that you choose to believe that instead of being forgetful, stupid, you know, she's a criminal, a thief. She stole money from you. And I don't buy that, Mr. McGinnis. I think that that's a very nasty thing to think about. What is? Are you on medication?
Am I on my medication?
Are you
Ron?
on any medication, sir? I'm wondering why you've got this grin on your face that seemed plastered onto your face. Case is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Can't believe you had 18 people in a row drinking water that.
Warren Day for a false restraining order. Warren says he was trying to keep William away from his 16-year-old daughter, and he is countersuing for his legal fees.
Quiet in the courtroom, please. Now, this is case number 70 on the calendar in the matter of Schwartfager versus Day. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Schwartfager?
That's correct.
How old are you, sir?
22.
Bert, I want you to pay careful attention. We're going to go over this scorecard so that you know who the players are in this case.
Gotcha.
Because I have a feeling it's going to be interesting. Who is this young lady?
That is my girlfriend, Sarah Buckley.
What does she have to do with this case?
She is a witness to the harassment, the vandalism to my vehicle, and she's also known the defendant and his daughters for about 5 to 6 years.
How long have you been his girlfriend?
Since November.
So a short-term girlfriend.
Yes.
Mr. Day, these are your two daughters.
That's correct.
Your name is?
Samantha.
How old are you, Samantha?
17.
And your name?
Kathleen.
How old are you, Kathleen?
22.
Kathleen, why don't you stand up next to your dad for a minute? Because we're going to get this whole scenario down here. Kathleen, you used to be his girlfriend, is that right?
Yes.
For how long were you his girlfriend?
Almost 4 years.
You have children with him?
2.
How old are your two children?
One just turned 3 and one's about 18 months.
Did you live together for a period of time?
Yeah.
For how long?
About 3 of those 4 years.
And how old were you when you started to live with him?
18.
Now you can sit down.
Thank you.
I may come back to you, but right now you can sit. This is what your lawsuit's about, William. According to you, you were being a good Samaritan. And at some point, you took in Mr. Day's younger daughter.
That's correct.
Into your home because you say she was having some trouble with her dad.
Both parents, Your Honor.
Both parents?
Yes.
Now, at the time that you took her into your house, were you still living with Kathleen?
No, I wasn't.
So Kathleen wasn't living with you anymore with your two children. She had left you. You had parted ways.
Right.
But Samantha came to live with you, and at that time, Samantha was 16.
That's right.
Mr. Day didn't like that.
Not at all, ma'am.
You didn't like what happened with your first daughter,
That's correct.
and you for sure didn't like what happened with your second daughter.
That's very correct.
So what did you do, Mr. Day?
Well, Mr. Shortfigure hit Samantha in the mouth.
After she was living with him?
Yes.
Okay, let's stop there for a moment. What date did your daughter leave your home?
April 13th.
Of 2003?
Yes. It wasn't my home. She was still with her mother at that time.
You and her mother are separated?
Yes.
In any event, this is what your lawsuit is about, William. Your lawsuit says that Mr. Day filed false charges against you for child endangerment, protective orders, causing you to have to hire an attorney, legal fees, and everything that he said about you was false, and you want to be compensated to the tune of $1,954.
That's correct.
Mr. Day, just for good measure, says, well, he wants some money too because you caused him to lose work and attorney's fees because he had to hire an attorney in order to get certain orders reinstated. He wants some money. I think most of what he wants is satisfaction.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, William, tell me about when Kathleen left your house with your two children.
We were living together until December of 2002. 2, I believe.
And how old were your children at that point?
The one was 3 months, and the other one was a little over 2 years old. Or, I'm sorry, she had not turned 2 yet.
And why did she leave?
We were having problems in our relationship. We've had an on-and-off relationship for the last 4.5 to 5 years, so...
It was during the odd periods that you had these children?
Yeah.
Was it an amicable breakup?
Pretty much.
And you continue to see the children?
Yes, on a regular basis.
And you continue to support the children?
That's right. I pay child support every week.
For both children?
That's right.
Okay. And where did Kathleen go when she left?
Actually, she stayed in the apartment that we shared.
And you left?
That's right.
So far, is that correct, Kathleen?
No.
Well, why don't you come up here and tell me what happened? Because this is all very important as far as Mr. Day's state of mind when he filed his complaints. When did you and William separate?
December of 2002.
Under what circumstances?
He was sleeping with my sister.
And how did you find that out, Kathleen?
I found notes.
Did you keep the notes?
My mom has them right now.
You get along with your mother?
Yeah.
Should have brought the notes to court.
I know, she won't give them to me. She said it's an embarrassment to our children.
What did the notes say? First
They
of all,
were-
who wrote the notes?
He did.
Remember what they said?
It said Samantha down the side. It said sexy, amazing, mind-blowing, awesome, naughty, terrific, hot, and a dream come true.
Did you confront William with the note?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said they wrote it as a joke, together.
And when was that?
About 2 weeks before Christmas, December 2002.
You remember that conversation, William?
Yes, I do.
So you told Kathleen, the mother of your 2 children, that the note that you wrote that talked about sexy, naughty, etc., with regard to her sister, her 16-year-old sister, were just joking around.
Well, I write a lot of poetry. And that
Joking around.
Yeah.
That's what you told her.
Yeah, I said we wrote it together. Yes.
Oh. Shh, please. You left.
I left for the day, but I stayed in the apartment. I asked him to leave.
And did he leave?
He left after a few days.
And that was in December.
That's correct.
When did Samantha come to live with you, sir?
In April of 2003.
And where were you living at the time?
I just got an apartment, and I had an extra bedroom, so I figured, you know.
How did Samantha know that you had an extra bedroom?
Well, we stayed in contact. Kathleen and I weren't talking at the time, so I used Samantha as a mediator to, you know, see my children and to make sure that they were doing okay.
You said you saw your children regularly, so what do you mean you needed a mediator?
Well, at first, the visitation wasn't every weekend like it is now. Like I said, Kathleen and I weren't on speaking terms at that time.
You weren't on speaking terms because she believed that you were having intimate relations with a 16-year-old sister. That a fair statement?
Yeah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You made 2 babies with one of his children, and then his daughter finds out that you're messing around with her 16-year-old sister. The 2 sisters, you know, like you live in Utah.
And later today,
You were together. You went on vacations together. You slept together, intimately involved with each other
Right.
for all that time.
Right.
Get a life, sir.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. William Joe Schwartfager says his ex-girlfriend's father, Warren Day, owes for attorney fees and harassment. Warren says after William broke up with Kathleen, he had an affair with her 16-year-old sister.
Now tell me what Mr. Day did with regard to his 16-year-old daughter moving in with you.
Nothing at first. Samantha and Mr. Day weren't on speaking terms when it first happened.
She was living with her mother.
That's right, and she was having problems with her mother. She was, you know, living in and out of her friend's house, you know, running away from her house, not going to school, stuff like that.
Between December and April, did you see Samantha?
We met up a couple times.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
How many times would you estimate you saw Samantha?
About once a week, maybe.
Could it have been twice a week?
It wasn't like everyday basis that she was over at where I was at, but...
I didn't say every day,
Well-
William. You said once a week. And what I said to you is, could it have been twice a week?
It might have been a couple weeks that she came over more than once, yes.
And when she would come over, would she stay for an hour or two?
She'd stay for a couple hours.
And what would you do when she came over?
We'd hang out with the kids, talk about when the next time I get to see them, you know, where we were going to meet to get the kids and everything else, so...
When did Mr. Day file the first of his protective orders?
In July.
You have a copy of it?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
This paper is also the ruling after the
Just
case.
a second. So he filed a protective order indicating that in July you hit Samantha in the mouth.
That's right.
July 2003, Samantha. Were you living with William at the time?
Yes.
Did he hit you in the mouth?
Yes.
Under what circumstances?
I came home and him and his friends had been drinking and we got into an argument. At that time, we went into the bedroom. He took me into the bedroom. His friends stayed in the other room and one thing led to another. He actually picked me up, threw me into the table, and that's how I busted my lip open.
So he didn't hit you in the mouth, he picked you up and threw you into a table, which caused you to hurt your lip. And what did you do in July when he did that to you?
Well, we kept fighting. He actually left. I called my friends to come get me because he took my keys and threw them in the dumpster. And he came back and he was being very rude to my friends, and then I left. And then 2 days later, I think, is when they actually filed the protection order.
Where were you living at the time?
I was living with Joe, but I was staying with my friend Stephanie after we got in an argument.
So you were living with him?
Yes.
What kind of an apartment did he have?
It was a 2-bedroom apartment.
Who else lived there?
Just me and him.
Did you have your own bedroom?
No.
Did you share the bedroom with him?
Yes.
For how long?
Ever since we moved in. We actually got the apartment together. He didn't have it when we're together.
You went to court in August of 2003. Do you remember going to court in August of 2003? Yes. Did the judge ask you any questions?
Yes.
Why did you lie to the judge?
Because I thought that I was in love and I was scared. He told me what to say and I said what he said to say.
Had you gone back to him at the time?
We were on a restraining order so we couldn't see each other, but yeah, we were still together.
Were you speaking to him?
Not during the protection order.
Did you tell your father that you were going to not tell the truth when the judge asked you questions?
Yes.
What did he say?
Not much. He told me I better tell the truth.
Is that right, sir?
That is correct, ma'am.
When your 16-year-old daughter got to court, she didn't tell the truth. Is that right?
That's correct.
And this, William, is what you're really suing over, this case that was dismissed.
Yeah, that's part of the lawsuit, yes.
Tell me what the other part is.
In February, he filed another protective order against me. Samantha had moved out in late October, and I didn't understand why he was...
So she came back to you after this original protective order, and she moved out again in late October?
That's right. She moved back into my house probably about a month after the case, and then she quit her job, stopped going to school, and those were, I told her if she was going to live with me, she had to keep her job, go to school, and then later on my car got vandalized.
Who do you think vandalized your car, sir?
Samantha. We do have audio tapes that were gone over by the county attorney.
Don't tell me what audio tapes were gone over by anybody else, sir. That's hearsay.
Okay.
Do you have any witness to Samantha vandalizing your car?
Samantha's older sister, Kathleen, she was the one that actually told me that it was Samantha that vandalized my car.
No.
What did you say to him?
I said it wasn't my brother and it wasn't my sister.
Well, I don't know what
there's
you
a lot
said.
of people that hate you, so...
Yeah. I can think of 3 right there. Maybe 4. William, I'm going to tell you a word that you probably don't know. Interestingly enough, Officer Byrd knows this word, because when I say the word, he's going to understand, as will a lot of other people, because I'm going to explain the word to you. The word, William, is chutzpah. Do you know what chutzpah means, Byrd?
Sure.
Chutzpah means nerve. You got a lot of nerve to put on a suit and tie, bring your girlfriend into a court to sue this man after you made 2 babies with one of his children irresponsibly. Now, you're only partially responsible for that, but you're half responsible for that. And then his daughter finds out that you're messing around with her 16-year-old sister, and she leaves you. Or you leave. She tells you to leave. And then you invite her 16-year-old sister to move into your house, the 2 sisters, like you live in Utah. And then you have the chutzpah to sue him as a parent for getting angry with you because his daughter tells him, not only am I sleeping with him, but he picked me up, he got angry when he was drinking, threw me against the table, and split my lip.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. William Joe Schwartfager says his ex-girlfriend's father, Warren Day, owes for attorney fees and harassment. Warren says after William broke up with Kathleen, he had an affair with her 16-year-old sister.
You have a daughter, sir?
Yes, I got 3
All
daughters.
right. You have 2 daughters?
3.
Three?
Yes.
Who's the third?
My oldest daughter, she's 7, but she's not by the day frame.
And how old are you, 22?
That's right.
You better get a lock for it.
That's already been fixed, Your Honor.
William, I don't want to look at you for another second. Your case is dismissed. Mr. Day, have you gotten the satisfaction that you wanted?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't need a counterclaim, do you?
No, I don't really know.
Very good. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's been hard. It's been hard for me not to do something else besides go to court on it. It really has.
I was just trying to get the attorney bills that Mr. Day has racked up on my behalf, cleared up.
This man has been like a dingleberry on my butt.
It didn't destroy any credibility. It's another day.
He doesn't think about other people's feelings, how he hurt me, how he hurt her, and how he's probably going to hurt Sarah, too.
She was like a little sister to me the whole time.
You could talk the panties off a nun.
The girl that's with him right now, Sarah Buckley,
Is my best friend.
and used to live in my house as my third, adopted daughter.
So he's on the third one now.
Yeah.
We're actually a lot closer than we were, and we just really hate him now.
Everybody makes mistakes. Yeah, this is her freebie. If she does it again, then it's done.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Nunez versus Channing, step forward.
Cell phone salesman Ruben Nunez is suing his ex-girlfriend, 25-year-old medical technician Tamara Channing, for crashing his SUV.
How old are you, Mr. Nunez?
32.
What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm in sales.
How long have you been working in sales?
10 years, but I've been with my current company for 7.
You have family?
Yes, I do.
What kind of family do you have?
I am a single parent of a little boy and a little girl.
They live with you?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so you're busy.
I'm currently busy. Yes, I'm always
so
busy.
you have a full-time job?
Yes.
And you take care of 2 kids?
Yes.
The reason I'm asking you these questions, sir, is I'm wondering why you're here. Because your complaint says that 2 years ago you were dating the defendant. She asked if she could borrow your car. She borrowed your car 2 years ago and had an accident. So my question is to myself, do you have nothing else to do in your life? In the 2 years that passed between the crashing of your truck that she had borrowed and now, why didn't you pursue your claim?
Well, Your Honor, she was unemployed, for one. She was going to school, and she just graduated currently in November of 2003.
Yeah?
And she barely got a full-time in February of this year.
Okay. Now, Miss Channing, you borrowed his truck. You had been driving it for a while. You crashed. You had an accident. The accident was your fault. There was some damage to the other car. The other car driver was paid with money that he initially wrote out, but you paid him back, that money. That she paid you back, right?
Yes.
This money you said she didn't pay you back. That was to fix the truck. Now, this was in December of 2002
Right.
that you crashed the car. You weren't living together, were you?
No, we weren't.
But you were dating.
Right.
Now, after December of 2002, did you continue to date?
Yes.
Was your dating relationship a heavy dating relationship?
Yes,
were
it
you heavily
was.
involved?
Yes, we were. We were boyfriend and girlfriend.
Were you intimately involved?
Yes.
And when did that relationship end?
It ended in January of this year.
So between December of 2002 and January of 2004, you were together. You went on vacations together.
Right.
You slept together.
Right.
Intimately involved with each other
Right.
for all that time.
Right.
Get a life, sir. Get a life.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen to me. If somebody owes you money, you pursue that claim immediately. If the relationship hadn't terminated in 2004, you wouldn't be here today. Is that right?
Incorrect.
No, you would not be here today. If the relationship proceeded and you married the defendant, which I assume was your intention and her intention, if you were boyfriend and girlfriend, that it was going to go into a formalized relationship. And if that had happened, we wouldn't be here today. And the only reason you're here today, sir, is because you're annoyed with her, relationship's over, you say, now I want the money from 2 years.
Is suing 21-year-old Brenda Carney for assaulting her in a restroom during a party.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 468 on the calendar in the matter of Hansen versus Carney.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Hansen, it is your claim that Miss Carney assaulted you at a party. It was a Halloween party, and it was being held at some firehouse?
Yes,
A
fire
firehouse.
department.
Adults were there, young people were there. Your parents were there?
Yes.
Were your parents there?
No.
Oh, right. Now, Miss Carney, your defense is that, yes, you did, in fact, hit her, But she started it.
Yes.
So since you acknowledge that there was a physical altercation, I'm going to let you tell me what happened.
Okay. I had walked it since the moment I walked in. The first time I saw her, she had called me when I walked by.
I assume you knew her from before?
Yes.
From when before?
A long time ago, like 6 years ago, probably.
Had you seen her in those 6 years?
I don't think so.
What time did you get to this Halloween party?
I have no idea. Probably 9 or so, I don't know.
Was this person with you?
Yes.
What time did you get to the party?
It was at 9.
Okay. So you say you passed her by and she called you a name.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going.
Okay, and so we kind of ignored it and we were sitting at a table.
Not we. I don't want to hear about the we.
Sorry. Okay.
She didn't call anybody else a name. She called you a name.
Yes. Okay, and then we passed by before we went in the bathroom and she...
Who's we?
Me and 2 other friends. And then by the time we got into the bathroom, we had had altercation. She called me...
No. Listen to me very carefully. And don't look down there. You look here.
Okay.
She called you a name. You ignored it. Sat down. You and your friends went to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
As you were going to the bathroom, did she say something else to you?
Well, actually, we were going to the other room, which the bathroom is in a hallway, and we're going through the hallway to a different room. And she had said some other things. I don't remember exactly what it was, though.
Directed to you?
Yes.
Okay, and you kept walking?
Mm-hmm.
Keep going.
And then a few minutes later, we went into the bathroom, and her friend were in there. And
okay, so when you got into the bathroom, she was there.
Mm-hmm.
Who had to use the restroom?
We went in to do our makeup, actually.
So nobody had to use the restroom?
No. Hmm? No.
And when you got into the restroom, the plaintiff was there?
Mm-hmm.
She was there with anyone else?
With her friend, I believe.
That would be you. Go ahead.
Okay, and so
don't look down. I'm not interested in looking down. I'm interested in looking here.
Okay. And so we had had an altercation. She was saying
Don't tell me altercation. Altercation is a conclusion. I want you to tell me what happened when you got to the bathroom.
Okay.
She was there already.
Yes.
What was she doing when you walked in?
Standing there. I don't know exactly what she went in the bathroom to do.
What was she doing when you walked in?
She was just standing there. She wasn't doing anything.
She was standing in the bathroom?
Yes, she was standing
near
in
the sink?
Yeah, well, it's kind of small, so yeah, near the sink, I guess you could say.
And what happened?
Okay, and I walked in there and she said, oh, you must have not heard me. And I said, yeah, I did hear you. And then we just got into this argument about my ex-boyfriend.
No. You must have not heard me.
Okay.
Yes, I heard you. She said, you said,
okay.
Come on.
She was saying how my boyfriend liked her and wanted her and I was nothing to him, blah, 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 blah.
You mean you're talking about 6 years ago?
Exactly, yes, 6 years ago.
Go ahead.
And so I just said, you could have him if you want him. He's not mine anymore, blah, blah, blah. And then she was just on and on about how much he wanted her, blah, blah, blah. So it made me mad. So I threw my water at her out of my cup. And so she started to come towards me. I hit her. She pulled onto my hair. And then her dad came into the bathroom and grabbed me out and said, you can either go out in cuffs or you can go out yourself. So I said, okay, I'm going out myself. Went outside with Whitney. And she came running out and pushed me and said, oh, it's all right, Danielle, I got her. And ran back into the bathroom. And so when we left, we went down to our car, and her dad walked by and said, oh, just remember, little girl, this isn't over yet. So I was like, okay. And they drove by about probably 10 minutes later, right before we were leaving, and they were calling me and stuff when they were driving by. So
that has nothing to do with the assault.
Okay.
You
well,
assaulted
you asked what
her.
happens. I told you.
You assaulted her.
Okay.
What part didn't you understand that you assaulted her? You can't throw water on her. Okay. That's an assault. And let's go through it very slowly. Remember, you don't have to have a good memory if you tell the truth. You threw water on her, and then what happened?
And then she came at me, so
then she came towards you.
Okay.
And then you hit her,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Where did you hit her?
Her face, I think.
You can't do that.
Okay.
Is that what happened?
No, it's not what happened at all.
So I've just heard a whitewashed version of what happened?
Yes.
Why don't you tell me what happened?
Okay.
But this is bad enough.
Yeah. It was about 10:30 at night on October 25th. And I had not seen her that whole night. I didn't know she was there. Me and Ashley went into the bathroom to go to the bathroom. And about 30 seconds, about 30 seconds to a minute later, she comes in with 2 of her friends. And I say, hi, Brenda. She goes, why are you saying hi to me? I said, because I was just trying to be nice. She replies, why, because you my boyfriend? And I said, no, I didn't have sex with your boyfriend. She comments about my chin, insults me, so I say something about her hair. I walk towards the restroom, turn my face, and she hits me in my eye. And I have pictures to prove it.
What about the water? Didn't she throw water?
She didn't throw water on me. She hit me once. I kneeled down, I come back up, and I pulled her hair. She hit me again in the same eye. I let go of her hair, I grab my face, and my friend Ashley pulls me into the stall. And I hear my dad's voice. He comes in to the bathroom, and I hear him. So I open the stall, and he says 3 times to her, you need to get out of the bathroom. You need to leave the bathroom. And as they are leaving the bathroom, her friend turns around, throws her drink on my face, into my eye.
Which friend?
I don't remember.
Which friend?
Don't remember.
Which friend?
Which friend it was?
Don't speak!
Okay.
Which friend?
It was our friend Brianna.
That was
I love it when it all... I gave you an opportunity to speak first, right? Everybody else was quiet.
Yes.
If I had let you answer the question, you would have said nobody threw a drink at her. That's why I asked her.
Okay.
Because then I got an honest answer.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Danielle Hansen says Brenda Carney assaulted her in the restroom during a Halloween party. Brenda claims that Danielle was the aggressor.
Okay. You have medical bills?
Yes.
I'd like to see them, please. What do you do for a living, Miss Carney?
I'm a waitress.
Where?
At Buffalo Hill Cafe in Georgetown.
How long have you been there?
About 6 years, 5 or 6 years.
Who do you live with?
I live with my mom.
Anybody else?
My dad and my brothers.
How come you didn't have her arrested? I would have had her arrested.
Your Honor, I'm Steve Hampson. I'm her dad. We did call the police. The first 2 sheriffs that did show up interviewed my daughter and had to go to the hotel to get the defendant out of the bar. They took her statement. A 3rd sheriff arrived and basically took over the whole situation. We felt it was kind of biased because the sheriff knew the family.
I assumed somebody knew a family.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
I assumed somebody knew a family.
No.
I assumed somebody called somebody who knew a family.
We didn't know any of the sheriffs that were there that night.
I didn't say you.
Okay, I'm just letting you know we had no idea who they were, so.
I didn't say you.
Okay.
Family, I said.
Or my family?
No, I don't believe that at all. Because with this kind of injury, I just found out the story. I asked you what happened. You acknowledged that you assaulted her. I assume you said the same thing to the sheriff who came. I assume you did because you told me that you assaulted her. So I don't understand, if you assaulted her and caused her physical injury, why you weren't arrested unless somebody knew something. Unless somebody knew somebody. Certainly pleased that you're working, my darling. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I wanted to go to the bathroom. I needed to go to the bathroom. I turned my head and she hit me.
She was very upset, holding her face. You know, it was pretty obvious that she had been assaulted.
If someone just says, hi, how are you, what would give me the reason to punch him in the face?
I didn't do anything to her.
She had just said that she wished wasn't wearing the same costume as her.
We were wearing the same costume. I think she was just a little mad because I looked better in mine.
Not sound biased, but yes, my daughter did look a lot better in the costume.
Get over small stuff.
Well, I'll never hit anyone again. That's for sure.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Morris versus Morones, step forward, please.
19-year-old Pura Morris is suing her co-worker, Felicia Morones, for borrowing her Toyota Camry and wrecking it.
Miss Morris, the defendant borrowed your car. Yes. You were co-workers?
Yes.
And she totaled the car. You want her to pay for the car because while you had liability insurance on the car, you didn't have collision insurance on the car.
Yes, ma'am.
And the defendant says that the accident was not her fault, and therefore she's not responsible for the damage. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. When did you borrow her car?
In the first couple of weeks of November.
When did you borrow your car?
November 8th.
See, when you lose property that you pay for, you remember the date that you lose it.
Right.
When you don't pay for property, you don't even remember the date that you lost the property.
Well,
November 8th. Tell me under what circumstances she borrowed the car.
It was about 1:30 and she was getting off a couple hours before I did, and she wanted...
Where do you work?
Taco Bell as my second job. She got off about 1:30 and I was supposed to close to be getting off at 4, and she had asked to borrow the car.
And I really didn't want to give it to her at first.
I don't care whether you wanted to give it to her or not. I want to know what you said to her and what she said to you.
She asked to borrow the car. She said she was going to go check and see who was at a club, and I told her she could not borrow my car if she was going to be drinking. She said, okay, well, then I'll just go home. And when I got off, she was supposed to come back up there and bring the car to me. And under the circumstances, she could borrow the car. I didn't want her to walk home at 1:30 in the morning. It's a bad part of town.
Well, if you hadn't lent her the car, how did you intend to get home?
Well, I have my husband to pick me up. He would come pick me up if I called him. She offered.
Just answer my question. When you didn't borrow her car,
Right.
how did you get home at 1:30 in the morning?
My manager, or like I would call somebody to come, you know, pick me
At
up.
1:30 in the morning?
Yes.
Like who?
My kid's dad or the manager. She would clock out and take me home if I needed.
Go ahead.
She had kept asking to borrow the car, and so finally I said, all right, well, just pick me up when it's over.
What kind of car did you have?
A 98 Toyota Camry.
And this Taco Bell job is your second job?
Yes, ma'am.
What's your first job?
I work at a doctor's office.
Where's your husband to?
He's a medical assistant.
Saving up some money?
Kind of. We just bought a house, so it's pretty much, we saved up to buy the house, and then we found out that it went through, and
How much money had you saved, Miss Morris?
A little over $2,000.
How long did it take you?
Month and a half, about 2 months.
So you work a lot?
Yes, ma'am.
What about your husband? Does he work a lot?
Yes, ma'am.
Who do you live with?
With my husband.
What does he do for a living?
He makes printing ink.
Okay. So you borrowed her car?
She offered her car.
I don't care whether she offered it or not. You borrowed her car. How old are you?
32.
You borrowed her car. You have a problem? You want me to give you the definition of borrow?
No, I know the definition.
Good. You borrowed her car.
Okay.
And what happened?
Well, I was at work and I was getting off early.
I heard that already. You were getting off early and you wanted to go home. And you didn't want to call your manager.
Well, I didn't want to
The father
go
of your
home. I told her I
children was-
wanted to go out.
You wanted to go out?
Yes, to
How
a
old are your
club.
children?
At home with their father.
How old are they, I said?
How old? From 16 to 5.
So you wanted to go out to a club. For what?
To have a couple of drinks.
With whom?
With just myself and whoever friends I saw there.
What about going home to your husband and children?
Well, I mean, occasionally I'll like go, you know, out with friends and we'll, you know, go out, drink or whatever. So.
You borrowed the... Did you steal the car?
No, I did not.
Look, all right, let's try to make this simple, even for you. Did you buy the car?
No.
Did you steal the car?
No.
Did you have possession of the car?
Yes.
Didn't steal it, and you didn't buy it.
So
Then you borrowed it.
Okay.
She didn't lose it. She didn't sell it. She loaned it to you.
Right.
You borrowed it from her. Now do you understand?
Yes.
Perfect. So tell me what happened to the car.
Okay, I was coming from the club because they were already closed. So I was just in the parking lot, so I just got back in the car, and then I took off, and then I was on the way to go home to change my clothes.
Change your clothes to do what?
Because I had on my Taco Bell uniform.
So what were you changing into?
I was going to go change, like, into some jeans and a T-shirt, and then, because she didn't have to get off till 4. And then when I was driving, a truck is coming towards my way on the other side. So then he decides to get in my lane, and I'm thinking he's going to move, and then he doesn't. So it's either I have a head-on collision, or what I did is I swerved, and when I swerved, there was like a ditch there with a little like boulder thing, and I like hit the boulder thing, and like when I did, it had like I could hear it like scrape the whole bottom of the car, and I went into like a little ditch where there was trees and stuff. So
did you call the police?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Because the car started back up after the airbags deployed.
You were just in almost a terrible accident. You heard that the car was damaged by hitting the underside of the car. A truck caused that damage, according to you. Truck caused that damage because it was traveling the wrong way on a highway. It was in your lane.
Not on a highway.
On a street.
On a street, yes.
It was going the wrong way in your lane on a street. So traveling in a very hazardous way, causing your accident. Why didn't you call the police?
Well,
How about because I didn't have a license?
Right.
How about that?
Because I didn't have a license.
That would be an answer. Why did you take possession of her car without...
She was aware of
I'm
that.
speaking. Don't tell me what she was aware of. Why did a 32-year-old woman take possession of a car, drive a car without a license? Why?
Just, I don't know, just because I just did.
Well, then you pay for it. Can I get the book value of this car, please? 1998 Toyota
Camry.
Camry.
She willingly handed the keys over to me, though.
You're a fool. Let me tell you all the things that you said to me today that suggest to me that you're a fool. First, that you had no responsibility because she offered you the car. Second, that you think that I believe that someone else caused this accident, despite the fact that you took the car, went to a club 1:30 in the morning, instead of going home after a shift of work to be with your husband, because you used that word loosely, because you at first said the father of my children would come and pick me up. Then you said husband. So somebody is home with your kids while you're out clubbing. That makes you a fool. The next thing that you say is a fool is that she's responsible because she handed over the keys to you. That makes you a fool. Only a fool takes a car to drive it. I'm speaking on a public street without a license, who's 32 years old, who has a child as old as 16. If your child who was 16 who doesn't have a license takes a car and drives it on the street, he'll wind up in jail. That's where you should have been. Have the price.
1998 Camry.
Yeah, good condition.
Private party, $5,100.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Former live-in boyfriend, staffing agent James Moulton, for unpaid rent, a broken video camera, and the return of a snake.
Yeah, this is case number 308 on the calendar, the matter of Pratt versus Moulton. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat.
Miss Pratt, how many kids do you have?
Total of 3.
How many live with you?
2.
How old are they?
14 and 9.
This is the 14-year-old?
Yes, ma'am.
What's his name?
Michael Edward.
And how old is the third child?
9. Oh, the oldest one is 21.
So she's out of the home? He's out of the home?
Yes.
How long did you know Mr. Moulton before he moved in with you and your 2 children?
About a month.
And why did he move in with you?
He wasn't able to pay his rent, and we wanted to join finances so we can both afford to live in my house that I own.
When he came to live with you, did he come to live with you as a boyfriend?
At first, yes.
What do you mean at first? So were you sharing a room with him?
Yes.
So you knew him 1 month before he moved in?
Yes, ma'am.
And did he have any children?
Yes, ma'am.
How many?
2.
Who did they live with?
Us.
So you moved in together, blended your families after knowing each other for a month. You now had 4 children living in the house. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
And the 2 of you. And when was it that he moved in?
About a month after we met each other.
A month.
That would have been in November.
Of 2003?
Yes, ma'am.
How long did he stay in your home?
Until the end of February of 2004.
And at that point you say he left owing you rent?
Yes, ma'am.
That he took some property that didn't belong to him when he left? And he also took your son's snake and mice, and you want them back?
Yes.
And broke camera?
Yes.
Whole bunch of stuff. Okay. He left in February of 2004?
Yes.
Tell me why he moved out in February.
We weren't getting along.
Just that. You just weren't getting along. There were no major battles in February.
Yes, there were. There was a lot of battles.
Well, what happened in February, sir?
Well, Your Honor, it was prior to that. It was more like after Christmas. I received custody of my children from domestic violence. When I brought them into her home, her children were very violent to her and to me and to my kids. And as a father, I cannot put my kids in that situation. That is why I left.
Okay, fine.
There was no agreement when I moved in about paying rent.
No, I didn't ask you anything else.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not your case yet, sir. It will get there. Because, Mr. Moulton, you're not going to tell me that a man who has custody of his 2 children moves in with a lady who has custody of her 2 children and expects somebody else to take care of him and his responsibility. Now, I don't want you to even answer that question, sir, until you think about it a minute.
I don't need to think about it. The answer is absolutely not.
Good. So I just want to make sure that that was not your agreement. Don't speak. You'll have an opportunity. Now, so he left in February. Now, he moved in November.
Yes, ma'am.
And prior to his moving in, did you have an agreement with regard to the household expenses?
He told me that he would pay half of everything, and that he would never treat me the way my exes treated me, and that he would be responsible and take care of his obligations.
Good. So he made some sort of general statement that he would take care of his obligations. So how much money did he contribute to the household in November?
He only helped with food.
When you say he helped with food, what do you mean he helped?
He paid for half of it, and I paid for half of it.
Okay. And did you have a discussion with him in November that this wasn't what you had agreed to?
More or less in December. He did originally have a job when he started. The first week he lost his car because it broke down, then he lost his job because of it. I even gave him my car, and he would drop us off at daycare and work, and he would try to look for a job, but he didn't have money for gas, so I had to put all the gas in the car also, besides paying for the insurance and for the $315 that I pay monthly on my
Okay,
car
just a second. So he lost his job. You lost your job, is that right?
I was laid off prior to moving in.
When did you get a job?
January, I believe it was, delivering flowers, and I was using my car because I had bought a car.
When did you buy a car?
In January.
With what?
I received unemployment and child support from my wife, which is what I paid for it.
How much money did you receive in child support?
I received $300 a month from my 2 children.
And how much did you receive from unemployment?
$125 a week.
So about $800 a month.
That's correct.
And you were receiving the $800 a month starting in November?
Absolutely.
And how much did you spend on your living?
I contributed most of my money to her in the household.
How much each month?
I probably kept $50 a week for myself and bought a case of diapers for my daughter.
Yes.
And I paid for all the food.
How did you then buy the car?
Money from my wife. Other money. I had this money. I saved some money. I had money before I moved in with her.
How much money did you have?
The car was $99 down.
How much money did you have?
A few $100.
You're talking fast, sir.
A few $100.
When he wasn't giving you money towards the mortgage and he wasn't giving you any money towards the rest of the household expenses but paying for half the food, did you have discussions with him periodically about money?
Yes, we did, and he kept telling me that to leave it go, that he would take care of it, just quit bringing it up, but he knows he owes it.
Okay. Now, when he left in February, what kind of a discussion did you have with him about the expenses and the money he owed you?
He agreed on $500 a month, and I told him, what about the phone bill, because he was calling his ex-wife on long-distance charges that I wasn't supposed to pay for.
Just a second. So he agreed to give you $500 a month
Yes, ma'am.
for the 3 months that he lived there?
$500 a month, yes.
But he did not give you the $500
No, he
a
did
month.
not.
And this is after he already moved out?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that sound familiar, Mr. Moulton?
No, ma'am. I had no agreement with her. When I told her I was leaving because I did not want my children in the violent atmosphere
I understand that.
longer,
She says that after you left, you had a discussion with her because she racked up large phone bills talking to your ex-wife and a lot of other expenses, and she says you agreed to give her $500 a month for the time that you were there with your children, and that you would pay for it out of your tax returns, but then you didn't get your tax returns right away.
It's not true. I agreed. I told her I paid her what I paid her, and that was it. There would be no more money given to her.
All right,
I fulfilled my obligations to her. My priority was to get my children out of that violent situation.
I heard what you said about your priority. I heard. Now, what items did he take from the house that you say didn't belong to him?
Whenever he moved in, he threw out my bike, which meant a lot to me. I had it since I was in
seventh. He threw out when he moved in?
An antique bike.
You said when he moved in, he threw out your bike?
Yeah, when he moved in, he started going through all my stuff, throwing out everything that he thought I didn't need and I didn't use. So he threw out my furniture, he threw out some of my items.
You should have thrown him out if you didn't want him to do it.
She asked me to help her organize the house.
Just a sec. Do I look like I need help?
No, ma'am.
If you didn't want him to throw away these things, Miss Pratt, and he was throwing them away when he moved in, you should have thrown him out. You didn't do that. Now you don't come and sue him.
Well, he had 2 small children.
Do you understand? You don't come and sue him after the fact.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen, you want to go on, some of you go on Dr. Phil if you want to talk about your problems. I don't want to talk about your problems. I want you to tell me, this is a court. What does he owe you?
And later today,
you were going on this trip to celebrate a milestone birthday.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, 50 is the new 30.
I like that. That's right.
I agree with you. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Carol Pratt says former live-in boyfriend James Moulton owes for rent, a broken video camera, and the return of a snake. James says he moved out because Carol's children are violent.
Let's get to the snake. Because I see we don't have anything that
Well, after he moved out and that my son was giving me a hard time, so I grounded him from the snake for a week, and I asked him to hold on to the snake and to the mice in the cages, and I gave him food and the bedding for them, and I said it will be a week. When I went back to get it a week later, he told me it either died or he froze, and he gave me different excuses every time I seen him.
What happened to the snake?
She asked me to take the snake. I took the snake and the mice to my house. The snake got away out the back door. I had the mouse. It wasn't a, or will you watch this, or will you babysit this snake until my son gets out of boot camp? It was, do you want the snake? Yes, I do. She put it in my car. I took it home. 4 months later, she wants the snake back. It's gone.
How long did you have it?
4 months.
You had it for 4 months?
I begged for 4 months to get it back.
Okay, next.
Well, when we were living together, he was drinking too much. That's why my son was getting upset. My children had a hard time with him because of the type of friends he was hanging out with. He was bringing...
Just tell me, I'm not interested. Listen, you want to go on, some of you go on Dr. Phil if you want to talk about your problems. I don't want to talk about your problems. I want you to tell me, this is a court. What does he owe you?
$1,650.
For what?
For living expenses, for the utilities, the phone bill that was over, for gas, for using my vehicle when he used it for the months that he didn't have a car.
Stop being a baby.
Your Honor.
Stop being a baby. The relationship didn't work out. He's not going to pay you for putting gas in the car. I believe that you had an agreement that he would pay for half of the expenses. Here you are living, your 2 children, his 2 children, and he can't live rent-free. He can't live utility-free. And he receives, in addition to that, he receives child support and unemployment insurance. So he receives $800 a month.
And I didn't know about the unemployment.
Well, he received, according to him, $800 a month. And if what you believe and what he agreed to pay was $500 a month, that's perfectly reasonable, leaving him $300 a month for extra expenses, and that's without a job. And certainly if you got a job in January, sir, delivering flowers, you could have gotten a job Christmas time delivering flowers too. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Jealousy?
Jealous? No.
She's jealous that I'm with another woman and won't be with her.
There's no jealousy. Sorry, Jim.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Abernathy versus Millard. Step forward, please.
Flight attendant Ellen Abernathy is suing her former friend, Jill Millard, for her share of a European vacation. Jill says she paid her back with babysitting.
Miss Abernathy, I gather from your complaint that you and the defendant used to be very good friends.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your lawsuit claims that the defendant owes you money for her expenses for a European trip, for a piece of jewelry that she purchased there that she put on your credit card, and for a loan that you made her for an attorney while she was going through some matrimonial difficulties.
Yes, Your Honor, that's right.
So, you were going on this trip to celebrate a milestone birthday.
That's
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
You know, 50 is the new 30.
I like that. That's right.
I agree with you. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
So you were going to Europe for your 50th birthday?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was going?
Myself and my husband, Bill, my son, Alex, who was 10 years old at the time, and his best friend, who was 10 years old at the time.
Where were you going?
We went to Zurich, took the train to Florence, went to Cortona, my favorite, Assisi. I saved and planned for 10 years for this trip. It was very, very important to me.
Sounds like a beautiful trip.
It was wonderful.
Under what circumstances did Miss Millard join you on the trip?
My middle son was not able to go on the trip with us, and so I had a ticket that I was going to turn back in, and Miss Millard said, I've never been to Italy and I've always wanted to go. Can I go along? She was my friend at the time, and I said, well, I have the ticket, but you know, with your finances, can you afford to pay for your part of the trip? So long story short, she said that when she got back from the trip and got on her feet job-wise, that she would pay me back.
Okay.
So that was fine.
Okay. The ticket that you had for your son that you were going to turn back in, was it a refundable ticket?
Well, it was refundable in that I used my frequent flyer miles, and I was just going to turn it back in to have the miles refunded to my account.
Okay. So the expenses that you're talking about are the hotel expenses and the meal expenses, not the plane ticket.
Exactly.
So you're really asking her for the money for her share of the expenses for the trip, not for the plane ticket.
That's right.
Okay. And that was, according to you, your agreement?
Yes.
Now, what happened when you got there with regard to this piece of jewelry that you're suing her for?
We were in a CC, and they had a very specialty jewelry shop that had Etruscan-type jewelry, and Miss Millard came into the shop and was very taken with a couple of different pieces of jewelry. She did say, I really can't afford this, I really shouldn't get this, but I'll never see jewelry like this again. And I said, well, if you want the jewelry, you can pay me back for it. I understand. She was my friend. I wanted her to have something nice if she wanted it, but I could not afford to get it for her. And so she chose some jewelry, and I went ahead and put it on my credit card with the understanding that she would pay me back for it.
When you say you had the understanding, did you say that to her?
Yes, I did. My husband was in the shop at the time, and he heard that.
And how much was the jewelry?
It was $394.89.
Okay. What were her expenses?
Her expenses were $2,200. That is for 20 days of hotel.
So about $100 a day?
Yes, ma'am. That's very inexpensive to stay in Europe.
Okay. Plus the $394.
Yes, ma'am, but I have tried several times to call her, and she would either not return my call, or she would return my call and say, don't bother me about this right now, I don't have any money to pay you. So I called her and I said, I'm really sorry it's come to this, but I'm going to have to take you to small claims court. I don't want to do this. I've waited until September, and it had been since the end of June when we had returned. And so she sent me a money order for $100 and a card that was not very complimentary to me.
Can I see it?
Yes, ma'am. I had told her I felt that she had looked at me as an opportunity, not as a friend, and she took...
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this card, this shows that she's sending you something. She didn't feel as if friendship was all about money. Clearly to you, she says it was all about money, whatever. When did you advance her this money for an attorney?
It was in the early part of 2004.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding that.
She had phoned me very upset and said that her ex-fiancé was pressing her about personal issues and making all these charges against her, which I did not believe were true. And so she asked me if I would please help her. She didn't know who to call. She needed an attorney. And I said, I know someone who may be able to help you, but they'll need money. No attorney is going to take your case for nothing. And she said she didn't have any money. I said, well, I can help you. I'll loan the money to you, but you have to pay me back. I cannot afford just to pay your attorney's fees. She said, I'll do anything. I just need that attorney.
Okay, so I'm ready to hear you. Let's start with the attorney's fees because that came first.
Okay. I was in a very serious circumstance and I needed some help.
You needed money?
Yes. And she was very kind in helping me in that particular instance. And
so is what you're telling me, Miss Millard, that you expected her to pay this $2,500 and that you would not be paying her back?
Oh, no, no, no.
So you're now telling me that you agree that the $2,500 was a loan?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you didn't say that in your answer. What you said was that the attorney was her idea and it was not a loan.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Okay. Who did you expect to pay for that?
Well, before we went on the trip, we had an agreement. Her middle son could not go on the trip, and so I was kind of a fill-in. He had already been accounted for all the expenses, so the expenses mostly were already paid for. So
no, that's not true. There's food.
Right. So what
that food wasn't paid for.
I agreed that I would be responsible, that I had brought cash and would exchange for the euros once we got to...
How many dollars did you cash for euros and give to her?
I believe I cashed $200 in American dollars, and I gave them 60 euros.
Is what you're telling me, that you gave her 60 euros for 20 days that you were in Europe?
No, 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 not for 20 days, for the 3 days that I couldn't get to the bank. And the rest of that...
Well, what happens after you went to the bank?
I was paying for my own meals.
How were you doing that?
With my own euros.
Now let's get to the jewelry. What happened with the jewelry?
We were in a CC and we went into this jewelry shop and she said, oh, come and look at this beautiful jewelry. But I knew that I couldn't afford any of the jewelry. And so she said, well, how about if you pick out these pieces? And I brought the pieces. And then once we get home, we'll set up a way for you to pay me back. in increments because she knew when I got home that I would be starting a new job.
So it was a loan?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, that's not what you say in your answer. You say that it was a gift. So now you're telling me, Miss Millard, that it was, in fact, a loan. Did you start paying her back?
Yes, the reference to the $100 money order was first part of the installment.
Well, you owe her $4,994 in addition to this $100. So what you're telling me is you acknowledge the debt.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, good. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $4,994.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I had a fabulous vacation.
And her husband, Daniel, for the return of child support. Jeffrey claims the couple accepted payments after Daniel adopted the children.
Order. All rise.
Now, this is case number 47 on the calendar in the matter of Juan versus Denton.
Thanks, sir.
Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
According to your complaint, you have overpaid child support to Mrs. Denton for triplets that were born as a result of a brief relationship that you had with Miss Denton. We'll get into the logistics and the timing of it in a moment, and these children have been adopted at this point by her husband.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to you, that this overpayment was made after the adoption was finalized, so you want the $2,400 back. Mr. and Mrs. Denton say that it's true that the money was paid, was taken out of your salary, I assume, after the children were adopted, but that for a very long time you paid nothing, so stop complaining.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, when were you and Mrs. Denton together?
In March of 1998, ma'am.
And was it a monogamous relationship, or was it a boyfriend-girlfriend, or was it a casual relationship?
Casual.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you find out that these children were going to be born?
Before I had left for Korea in 1998, she had mentioned to me that she was pregnant.
Mentioned?
Mentioned it.
That's not usually something you just mentioned.
Well, it wasn't actually her that had told me. It was one of her friends that she had put on the phone. They told me that she was pregnant. And then shortly before I had left.
Okay. Do you remember what month that was? You remember?
It was April.
I told him in April.
Had you ever been pregnant before?
No, ma'am.
So this was just a lucky break that you had triplets the first time around.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. And lucky for you. Did you have any communication with Miss Denton from April until the triplets were born?
Very little. Right before I had left, she had actually mentioned to me that they were triplets.
What month did you tell them they were triplets?
When I found out in June.
Miss Denton, where were you living at the time?
With my mother and father.
Were you shocked?
Very.
Were your parents shocked?
Very.
In June, you advised him that they were going to be triplets.
Yes, ma'am.
And you left for Korea.
Yes, ma'am.
There was never any discussion of the two of you finalizing a relationship.
Ma'am, I didn't believe they were mine to begin with from the get-go.
Now, the children were born when?
They were born in 1999.
When?
September.
September 1998.
I'm sorry, 98.
September the 17th.
And when did you meet Mr. Denton?
In June of 1998.
Had you ever been married before?
No, ma'am.
And so you understood when you were getting married to this lady that you were taking on the responsibility of instant family.
Yes, ma'am.
When, for the first time, did you discuss with Amy the probability of your adopting the girls?
It was discussed off and on early in our relationship, shortly after we got married.
When did you get married?
Actually, 2 weeks after they were born, October 3rd of 98.
During the time that you were courting, between June and October, did you discuss what the family dynamic was going to be with him?
We were trying to decide whether or not that we should let them know that they have that their biological father, or just leave it as if I was the father. She was persistent on the fact that they needed to know that that was their father at first, and I really didn't have that feeling in my heart because I wanted to personally take care of myself.
When did you notify Sergeant Juan that he was the father of triplets?
When they were born, Red Cross sent a message stating that if they wouldn't let me say that his kids were born because we weren't married. They told him that a friend of his had triplets.
And you received that message?
I did not, ma'am.
You did not?
I did not receive that.
When did you first communicate with him?
In June of 2000. Well, I went to child support in June of 2000,
When the children were born, did you put his name on the birth certificate as the father?
No, ma'am, they would not let me.
Had you and your husband at that point decided that it was best if he adopt the children?
We had discussed it.
And I assume that he was parenting these little girls.
Yes,
and that's
ma'am.
a full-time job.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm in the service as well. I'm in the Army.
When you went to child support, what was the purpose of your going to child support?
To get help, because it's very expensive.
At that point, were you anxious for your husband to adopt the children?
We would like it. We were wanting it, yes.
I assume. You figure, well, if you push him to pay, he'd be more than anxious to give up his parental rights since he hadn't seen the children anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the back scenario. Well, what happened the first time you raised the issue of adoption?
He said he would not do it.
And when was that?
I do not recall exactly when it was.
Is that before or after?
It was after child support had started.
Ma'am, they actually had asked me prior to the child support starting. They wanted me to sign the papers so he could adopt them. I refused to because, number one, I didn't know for a fact that they were mine. I wasn't going to do it without blood tests.
So that they asked you to sign the papers relinquishing your parental rights before child support?
Correct.
That sounds more likely. And then child support was ordered, you went and you took a blood test, and as it turns out, you are the biological father of these 3 little girls.
Correct.
Did you start to visit them?
I did. On numerous occasions, I attempted to go over there. She had actually called me a few times to come over and spend some time with the girls. Unfortunately, most of the time it was late night. I didn't have a lot of time during the day or on weekends to see them unless it was later in the evening.
Why?
Because most of the time during the day I was working until about 1700, 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Do you have other children, sir?
I did have one other child at the time, yes.
What do you mean you did?
I gave her up for adoption as well.
You just keep pollinating around, Sergeant Juan. You've got to keep it zipped, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You know, you're a grown-up, or at least you're old enough to be a grown-up. You're not responsible enough to be a grown-up, Sergeant, because grown-ups don't make irresponsible decisions all the time. And apparently you did.
And later today...
How long had you been in prison?
3 years, 7 months, 14 days.
And how old was your son when he was murdered?
23.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jeffrey Wan says the mother of his triplets, Amy Denton, and her husband, Daniel, owe for the return of child support. Jeffrey claims the couple accepted money after Daniel adopted the children.
So far, you got 4 babies, and it's easy to sign a piece of paper. It's much easier to, use protection. Much easier. Causes a lot less pain to a lot more people, get hurt. You have family?
Yes, ma'am.
You have mother?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a father?
I do.
You have siblings?
Yes.
Right now you have a mother and a father who have 4 grandchildren that they will never see. That creates a heartache, even if you put it in the back of your mind someplace. Right?
Yes, yes.
You gotta grow up. Who is this?
That's my wife, ma'am.
You have children together?
Not yet, ma'am.
Okay. Well, after child support was ordered and you tried to see the girls and there was problems late night and whatever, when did you decide that you were going to consent to the adoption?
It was April of last year. They had asked me to allow them to change the names to Denton or add the name Denton onto their last names because they had another daughter as well who had the last name Denton. The girls wanted to have the same last name with their little sister. At first I said I wasn't going to allow it, and then I said the only way that it was going to happen was if he would adopt them. I don't want to have to put up with not being able to see my daughters on numerous occasions.
You didn't want to have 3 children have somebody else's last name and you paying support, right?
Correct.
Okay. And had your other child already been adopted?
Yes, ma'am.
So you knew how it worked?
Yes, ma'am.
When was the adoption finalized?
It was finalized in August of 2003.
For how many months did you receive support that came right out of his check?
I received it August, September, October, November, and December.
All right, Miss Denton, tell me why you don't think you should give him the money back.
I don't feel we should owe him anything. He didn't pay us anything for 2.5 years. We asked him to please come see the children. We gave him chances. He would not do it because he did not want to do it in our home. He wanted to take them out of our home, which was fine. We felt after they got to know him and he got to know them, then they could go with him.
Why are you laughing, sir?
I'm just finding some of this to be amusing, ma'am.
Why?
the way that she said that I never wanted to go see I never wanted to see them, I never attempted to, is completely wrong. On numerous occasions I had tried to go see them, and most of the time they were with their grandparents or with their aunt and uncle, or just out and about doing something where I wasn't afforded the opportunity to see them until later in the evening.
Sergeant, you know, you are not a person without rights. And if visitation is something that you want, regularly scheduled visitation, you go to court and you say, I want a regular fixed period of visitation with my girls, and the court will set that kind of an order. But you can't stand there like a crybaby and say, well, she only let me see the children when it was convenient for her and she made it difficult for me. You know, you're a grown-up, or at least you're old enough to be a grown-up. You're not responsible enough to be a grown-up, Sergeant, because grown-ups don't make irresponsible decisions all the time. And apparently you did. Mrs. Denton, what I'm gathering from the two of you is that from the time the two of you met while you were pregnant, it was your hope, and your hope, sir, that you were going to be raising these girls as your own, and he wasn't going to be involved in your life.
Yes.
So that you did not pursue the issue of child support for several years. Yes. You were trying to see if you could get rid of him, you know. The longer he abandoned his responsibility and the fact that he had 3 children, the easier it would be for you to terminate his parental rights, free the children for adoption, and allow your husband to adopt them, which is really what you wanted.
Yes, ma'am.
So you have to return the money. I mean, you got what you wanted. And you knew that you shouldn't have taken this money after the adoption was finalized. When were you notified that the adoption was finalized,
Not
sir?
until December.
Well, as of August of 2003, this gentleman, the pollinator, had no legal obligation to support these girls because you and your husband got exactly what you wanted, which was you got him out of your life. You don't have to worry about him coming to visit, speaking with you. You don't have to worry about making decisions with him. He's out of your life. And you knew that you had no right to keep this money, so you could have sent it back to him. You chose not to do that. Well, that's the wrong thing to do. You know, if you're cutting the cord, you cut the cord, and you don't accept the money. And you didn't ask for any money until 2000. Anyway, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,400. I assume that these are the only 4 children that you have. Is that
These
right?
are the only 4 children that I have, yes, ma'am.
Perfect. That's all. You're going to think about that, aren't you?
I have one on the way.
Good. This one I assume you're going to stick with and support.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. That's all. Thank you. Good luck.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I felt like I was being taken advantage of. They were just collecting the money from me that I couldn't do anything about.
He knew from the beginning. He blew me off, basically.
I can't say that I was always the best person, but at the same time, I don't think I was irresponsible.
We would invite him to our home to see them, but he wouldn't because it wasn't the way he wanted it.
I think that he tried really hard on trying to see the girls, and they made it absolutely impossible.
Having to explain to the girls when they get older that we tried and he chose not to be part of their lives.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Young versus Thomas, step forward.
Plaintiff Sarah Young is suing her deceased son's father, Bill Thomas, for his share of the funeral. Sarah says their son was murdered outside a convenience store.
You and Mr. Thomas had a son together.
That's correct.
That son, unfortunately, according to what I read in your complaint, was murdered.
Right.
And there was an insurance policy.
That's correct.
And the insurance policy was divided in half.
Yes.
You received half, and Mr. Thomas received half.
That's correct.
At the time that your son was murdered, you were in prison, Mr. Thomas, is that right?
That's correct.
How long had you been in prison?
3 years, 7 months, 14 days.
And how old was your son when he was murdered?
23.
You know the date of his death?
Yes, I do.
What was that?
January the 10th, 2004.
Now, what kind of an insurance policy did he have, Miss Young?
He worked for UPS, and he had a life insurance on the job.
And how much was the life insurance policy, the value that was paid?
It was $24,300.
And you received $12,000?
Yes, I did.
And Mr. Thomas received $12,000?
Yes, he did.
Is that right, Mr. Thomas?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. How much did the funeral cost?
The funeral was about $9,000.
And you want him to pay for half of the burial, which would be about $4,500.
Okay.
And what do you say about that, Mr. Thomas?
Well, the funeral
Well is not an answer, Mr. Thomas.
Yes, ma'am. The funeral only cost $3,484.
You can prove that?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me see it, please. Is that your defense, sir? That it wasn't as expensive?
No,
or is your defense that you don't want to pay at all?
No, my defense is, not that I didn't want to pay at all. My defense is that I was never asked to pay anything to this day. The only time that I figured that I owed something is when I was served papers for $5,000. And I was away from my home at the time, and when I came home, and my wife said, your daughter came by and served some papers on you for her mother.
You testified that you paid directly out of your money for the funeral, is that right?
Yes.
Can I see the checks to the funeral parlor and the undertaker?
Hold on.
And how did you pay them? By check?
Yes.
Can I see the checks, please?
I don't have the checks because I went through the credit union and I didn't know I had time to get the copy of it.
You had plenty of time, madam. These were in January of 2004.
What I meant, the reason I didn't have time to get the check when I decided to file, because first I was just going to let him walk away with the money and just go on about my business and take the pains in a different way. So I said, he started getting small with me and talking to me, you know, any type of way. I said, you know, I'm not going to let you get away with that. I spent 23 years old, 23 years climbing a pole, crawling on the house, taking care of my child. And then when he got killed, all you did is walked over and got half of the money. And I will not let you get away with that. And that's why I filed.
Okay, now, just Miss Young, but you have to understand, your claim is for half of your son's funeral expenses.
Right.
Now, Mr. Thomas is under no legal obligation to pay you half of your son's funeral expenses.
Okay.
I'm not saying he doesn't have a moral obligation, but this isn't a moral court. This is a law court. So he has no legal obligation to pay for the funeral. But assuming today,
okay,
Mr. Thomas says to me, I would pay for half. That's the right thing to do. But you don't have proof of what you paid. And I'm asking you why.
I didn't bring the check.
Well, I can't help you, madam.
Okay.
If you come back, if you want to dismiss this case without prejudice and come back and show me proof that you've paid, that's fine. But that's only if Mr. Thomas will agree that if she has proof that she actually paid for this funeral, you say she did not. But if she has proof that she actually paid, are you prepared to pay for half?
Yes, I'm willing to pay for half, Your Honor.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Your Honor.
That's it.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Now, if you
is suing her ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old Ernie Murky, for the return of furniture.
All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. Hello. Yeah, this is case number 537 on the calendar in the matter of Stewart versus Murky. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You're welcome. Folks, have a seat, please.
Ms. Stewart, the defendant was your boyfriend. You have a child together.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Murky?
Yes, ma'am.
You have custody of your son, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
How old is your son?
2 years old.
How long have you had primary custody?
Since, I'd say, around last June.
June of 08.
Yeah.
What?
He does not have custody. He was granted interim custody when I was in the hospital in June.
Does the child live with him on a full-time basis?
No, we have shared parenting.
That has not been passed.
Just a second.
That has not been passed through court yet, ma'am. She actually has been doing better. We have agreed on a shared parenting because I'm not trying to keep my son from his mother. That was not my intentions at all. But we don't go back to court till April.
Is that correct?
Oh, we do go back to court in April, but...
Is it correct that until April he has primary custody of this boy?
He has interim custody, yes.
And prior to June of 2008, did the child live with you?
Yes.
So I assume something happened in June of 2008 which required his father to take custody of him.
Yes, I was hospitalized for a week.
I assume you were having troubles at that point. If you were hospitalized for a week, that means when you get out of the hospital, he comes back to live with you unless you were having some difficulty in your life.
Right, he filed for the interim custody while I was in the hospital.
Ms. Stewart, your case is about the following. You say that at some point you came back to live with him and you had furniture.
Yes, ma'am.
And the furniture was given to you by your father.
Mm-hmm.
And he threw you out because, according to Mr. Murky, he found that you had been sending money to an old boyfriend in prison, and you want your furniture back and your television. Mr. Murky says that the furniture was given to him by your father. It was used furniture, with the exception of the television, which was, in fact, yours. Now, if this is your father, I'm going to make the following statement. Are you your father?
Yes, ma'am.
Why don't you stand up? Is your last name Stewart?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Stewart, I want you to listen to me very carefully, sir, before you say anything. Are we understanding each other?
Yes.
I worked and developed my skills in family court over 25 years. There isn't a story I haven't heard in one form or another. Are we understanding each other?
I understand.
Now, I gather from reading these papers that at the time that your daughter was incapable of parenting her child, that Mr. Murky, who appears to be a rather responsible young man, took over that role. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes.
Now it appears to me as if your daughter is probably doing better. That a fair statement?
She's doing very well.
She's doing very well. That doesn't mean that she's the more responsible parent. Do you understand what I'm saying, Mr. Stewart?
I understand.
I want you to listen to me very carefully. Because she's doing better doesn't automatically mean that she should have custody of her child. Do you understand me?
Yes.
Were you a good father?
I tried to be.
Did you live with her mother?
Yes.
Was her mother a good mother?
Yes.
Did you feel as if her mother was a better parent than you were?
Probably she was.
He's a better parent than your daughter.
That's not true.
Yes, Mr. Stewart. Right now, in your grandson's short life, he has been the one who's been responsible for him when your daughter was incapable because of whatever messing up she was doing. She was messing up. So I want you to listen to me very carefully before I ask you these questions, Mr. Stewart. Before you alienate him, who very well may be the primary caretaker of your grandson for a long time, before you alienate him by telling something that's not true, I want you to think about it, and the best thing that you can do is just say, I have nothing to say. Because Mr. Murky said to me in his answer that you came to him at work and said, I've just bought some new furniture, and if you can find a way to get the furniture over to your house, you can have my old stuff.
That is not true.
And I don't believe you.
Why would I give him furniture and not my daughter?
Why would you give him furniture?
And not my daughter.
On what date did the furniture move into your house, sir? August, September, October. What date?
The middle of November. It was after my birthday. My dad gave it to me for my birthday.
Were you in rehab? Is that what? Let's understand what we're talking about.
No,
Were you in rehab in June?
I've never been in rehab.
What kind of hospital were you in June?
I was at University Hospital. I was having seizures where I was blacking out and I wasn't remembering chunks of time.
Had you been involved with drugs or alcohol prior to that time?
No, ma'am.
Go ahead.
She was having problems. She was doing some things. I'm not quite sure what she was doing. She was running them up, but she was hospitalized for those
That's
reasons.
a very nice thing for you to do. So the reason you would give him the furniture, your daughter was then living with him. He had been caring for your grandson alone since June.
That's not true.
What do you mean it's not true?
I helped with the grandson. Me and my wife helped, and my family helped. It just wasn't all on him.
As it should be. Just a second. You're the grandfather. So if you and your wife helped out, that's fine. That's what you should do.
Well, that's what we did.
That's what you should do.
Well,
he didn't say to you, listen, I'm just the father. I can't take care of a 2-year-old. He said, I'm coming in. I'm going to take over. She can't take care of the child now. And if you helped, that's what you're supposed to do. You're the grandfather. Sit down, Mr. Stewart. You're not being smart. You have her television set?
Yes, I do.
All right. She gets back her TV because you acknowledge that the TV is hers.
Yes, ma'am.
Was all the furniture that went to his house all used furniture that came from your father's house?
Yes, it was bought December 2006. I have the receipt here if you'd like to see
That's
that.
fine. It's staying in his house. Do we have to deal with anything else?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you have a nonsense counterclaim, Mr. Murky. Your nonsense counterclaim is for half your rent because when she moved in, she was unemployed, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So how was she supposed to pay you half the rent?
I understand.
You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
That's why I said it's a nonsense counterclaim.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Emily Stewart says the father of her child, Ernie Murky, owes for the return of furniture. Ernie is countersuing for unpaid rent and a cell phone bill.
Okay, so you were in the hospital in June. When you got out of the hospital, where did you go?
To my apartment.
To your apartment alone. You didn't go to your parents' house.
No, I had my boyfriend that lived with me.
Which is now in prison. Is the reason
Just a
why.
second. So you left the hospital and went to your apartment with a boyfriend who's now incarcerated. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, ma'am.
And you lived with this incarcerated boyfriend until when?
We moved out August 1st.
And where did you go?
From there, I went to go stay with a friend. My friend.
And where did he go?
I don't. That
To jail.
wasn't my problem. He did not go to jail. He went and lived with his parents.
When did he go to jail?
October, November, maybe November.
And what evidence did you find, Mr. Murky, that she sent money to him?
I found receipts showing plain as day that she was dropping the money off, not sending it. She actually took it down there to him.
His mother paid me to take the money. It was her money. She paid me to drive it down there.
So at the time you were living with the father of your child, you were doing errands for your former boyfriend's mother by taking money to the jail for him.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand what I'm saying, Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
You get what I'm saying to you? Don't cut him off. Her judgment is south. Don't cut him off. You never can tell. Do you understand?
I
That's
understand.
why I didn't let you testify. You get back your television,
Ma'am.
period.
How about the...
I actually have another counterclaim. We have a cell phone bill that went into collections that's for $969.82. I have the last bill that was sent out and the collection letter showing that they're coming after me because I was the primary account holder.
When you gave her this cell phone, was she working?
At the
Is
time,
not
yes.
an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Where?
She was working for PNC at the time.
I worked at U.S. Bank, ma'am.
When?
Before we split up the first time. It was probably 2 summers ago.
Oh, forget it, Mr. Murky. Forget it. I don't go into ancient history, sir. You get back your television, period. That's it. Goodbye.
I have a whole laundry list.
Goodbye. I don't care about your laundry list. That's what you get back. You have very poor judgment.
How do I have poor judgment?
I can ask your father to tell you how you have poor judgment.
Because I had a medical issue? I was not in rehab. I didn't have a problem with drugs or alcohol.
Listen to me very carefully, madam. This is your problem. First of all, you had poor judgment in hooking up with somebody that ended up in prison. You had poor judgment while you were living with the father of your child who was supporting you. You were doing errands for this person who was in prison by delivering him money. That's poor judgment. Now do you understand?
So
your father
judgment cost me
understands. That's all. Step out. By the way, Mr. Murky, I wouldn't be so fast to give her shared parenting. I wouldn't be so quick to do that. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You have to think about your child. You shouldn't cut her off from her child.
I understand.
She should see him, she should be with him, she should spend time with him. But you make sure that you're perfectly satisfied that this woman can exercise the judgment to share parenting with you. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I don't understand why she thinks I'm such a bad mother.
I've pretty much had completely enough.
Ernie gave me a hard time about not having any income, even though he wanted me to stay home with our son.
She was offered money to do it.
She offered me $40 to drive 20 minutes away.
There was no reason for her to be needing that money that bad.
I just think he's bitter.
Watch your back.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Judith versus Danka. Step forward.
Victoria Judith is suing her former tenant, 32-year-old Tammy Danka, for damage to her rental property.
Miss Judith, you rented your house to the defendant and you claim that she moved out and she caused extensive damage.
Correct.
Over $5,000 worth of damage. Ms. Danka says no such thing. She left the house in fine shape. There was nothing wrong when she left the house. She says that you actually owe her security deposit back and some damages because she says you've been bad-mouthing her around town and to her new landlord. When did you move into her house?
On October 1st, 2007, Your Honor.
What was your rent?
It was $1,650.
Do you have proof of payment of the security deposit?
I do not have proof of that because it was all included in the first month's rent.
Well, show me the first month's rent check.
Don't have that.
Well, then, I'm not entertaining your counterclaim for security deposit. She says you never paid her any security deposit.
That's ridiculous.
No, it's not ridiculous. All you had to do was bring me the check.
Well, I have in the lease that it shows that it's $1,650 plus the deposit on there.
Yes, she says that you never gave her the security deposit. And all you had to do was bring me the check.
I didn't have the check because that was so long ago. I didn't think it'd be...
It wasn't so long ago. It's not so long ago.
I didn't think
It's
it'd be a
year and a half
problem.
ago. What?
I didn't think it would be a problem to save that rent check.
You have to bring proof. This is court. Where did you think you were coming today?
I bought proof of a lot of other things, Your Honor.
Well, but the main part of your counterclaim is for security. Then you bring me the check that says rent and security.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Let me see pictures of the house before and after.
All right. The before ones. I have my own after pictures as well.
I want to see them too.
Thank you. before. These are my photos, and these are her photos currently available online to show the difference there in the painting that she had me pay for.
Just a second. I just want to see the picture. Can I see the before pictures? These are before. Fine.
I have more too.
When was this picture taken?
That was 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Prior to her moving in?
Yes.
Okay. Now let me see your after pictures when she left. What day did you move out?
I moved out on the 30th of June.
Here are some. I have more. Also, please note that the water was left running in the pool to damage the cup.
Just a second. This is dirt. That's just stuff. The stove is dirt. And this, I assume, is to show me that she left dishes in the dishwasher.
Yes.
And this is to show me that she left a dirty refrigerator.
Yes.
Okay.
There are more.
And this is to show me that she left stuff there.
Yes. We needed to know what she was going to do with this.
Well, I don't know what she's going to do with it. So far, I don't see $5,000 worth of damage. I see a lot of dirt and schmutz.
There were holes in the walls.
All I want you to do is show me. So far, I don't see anything.
That's it. The garage doors were broken. The locks were damaged.
Don't tell me anything. Show me.
I actually had a company come out while I lived in the home to give me an estimate because it was broken prior to us moving in. And I used a stick, and I have a 5-year-old little girl with a pool in that backyard, and she provided me no locks. And I had the company come out.
Just a second. Is what you're telling me that you put locks
She never provided. It was already broken.
I'm asking you if you put locks in.
I tried, yes.
What do you mean you tried?
I had a friend come over because I had added an estimate and she wouldn't pay for it. She said it was too much money. So I had a friend, in fear of my daughter drowning, to put a semi-lock on it to try to get it to lock. But the door was broken to begin with, so there was no repairing.
So what you're telling me is you lived in a house with a pool with a child and you didn't have a lock put on the door?
I tried. Yes, I did, but
you
it was
can't
just...
try!
Oh, it just broke
Listen,
again.
Listen to me. Yes. When your daughter is laying face down in the pool, you tell her that you tried to put a lock on the door? Don't you realize how stupid that is?
Well, I had
it's not her.
in it.
Hey, it's not her child.
I understand
I'm not
that.
excusing the fact you're trying to talk over me. That's not going to happen. I'm not excusing the fact if it's true that there was no lock on the door. What I'm telling you is you're the mother.
Right.
You're not supposed to say I tried.
Right.
You're supposed to say I took care of it.
Right.
What else? I don't see $5,000 worth of damage, madam. I'm not interested in that. I couldn't be less interested in your bills.
Okay.
I can only be interested in photographs of damage. So far, all you've shown me is a lot of trash and somebody who didn't clean well before they left. That's all I saw there.
No, that's the door alone. This had a lock in it. The people
Listen to me, madam. I see the door. I see the hole in it. I don't see $7,000 worth of damage, and I'm not looking at your bills. If you decided to renovate your house, that's your business. If you took pictures of the damage, listen to me very carefully. If you took pictures of a dirty toilet, then you should have taken pictures of holes in walls, ripped up carpet, banged out windows. But if you take pictures of a dirty toilet and a dirty refrigerator, and that's all you're showing me, then that's cleanup. For that, you get compensated. I mean, if you spent $300 to clean up the apartment, that's fine. But you don't get $7,000 for doing a renovation. Do we understand each other? Now, show me the pictures of the damage. I don't see any.
There's the dirty carpets that had human urine in them and feces on the carpet. They had to be removed. They're here. I'll show you.
Show me.
How do you justify human urine?
Show me.
Yeah, you know what that is. Here's the carpets. These were pale Berber carpets, very expensive. All of these are documented.
I'm not interested in your bills. I see trash on the floor.
No, there were dirty carpets. They destroyed the place. There were locks broken. These are honest people in Palm Springs that provided the services that will explain
Listen to me very carefully, madam. She's not renovating your house. If you took pictures of a couple of cups, listen to me, stop looking through. If you took pictures of a couple of cups on the floor and you took pictures of a dirty toilet, then you take pictures of actual damage that I can see. I can see no damage on this carpet except for a cup and a bottle and some trash. Do we understand each other? Now, if you have a bill for cleaning the house, I'll see it.
The carpets were not clean.
If you have bills for cleaning up the trash, You hired a firm to come and clean up the trash that you say was outside, like here, or to clean the inside of the stove, or to clean up this mess, then I'll see a bill for cleanup. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you have that bill?
Well, I'm under oath, and I can tell you that there were rocks and marbles down my garbage disposal.
Your case is dismissed. Your counterclaim is likewise dismissed, madam. You don't have any proof that you paid any security deposit.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think it's phenomenal, perfect, couldn't have...
Is suing her former roommate, 19-year-old Elizabeth Peterson, for cable bills and an apartment transfer fee.
Order. All rise. Yeah, it's case number 570 in the matter of DeLay versus Peterson.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Ms. DeLay, you and the defendant were friends throughout high school, and no quicker way to destroy a friendship very often than to become roommates in college. The two of you decided to share an apartment together. You signed a lease to a two-bedroom apartment. It didn't work out, and you both moved out.
Correct.
You paid the transfer fee, allowing each of you to move into a one-bedroom apartment. You want Ms. Peterson to be responsible for half of that transfer fee, plus her part of the cable bill that you say was in your name.
Yes.
Ms. Peterson says that your behavior and things that went on in the apartment made it impossible to stay there. She says that you wanted to move out, so you pay the transfer fee. And as far as the cable is concerned, she says you put a password on there that precluded her from using the internet and cable. She has no intention of paying it. She's counterclaiming for some nonsense. She wants you to return all the rent she paid because she didn't have a good time. Well, that's about what it is. So that's ridiculous. But I'll let you explain it to me in a very short period of time.
Okay.
Okay. When did you move into the apartment?
We signed the lease July 8th, and I moved in July 8th.
And Ms. Peterson moved in 2 months later.
Correct.
Okay. When did you sign the transfer agreement?
I don't have the exact date, but it was end of January. I moved into my new apartment, I believe, end of January, early February.
All right. So that Ms. Peterson lived there September, October, November, December. And when did you move out?
I moved out on the 16th of January.
Now, you're going to explain to me, Ms. Peterson, why you are not responsible for one half of the transfer fee that permitted the two of you to go your separate ways. You were both unhappy, correct?
Yes.
Both unhappy. You explain to me why you should not be responsible for half that transfer fee.
Okay. Back in July, in the summer, Veronica expressed to me that she wanted me to find a new roommate to cover her half of the lease. And I went forward with that, and I found a roommate.
In July?
In July, before we were even living together, because of the cable internet bill, because I said I wasn't going to pay it. Because I didn't need it. I don't watch TV, and I had friends who were moving upstairs who said I could use their internet, or I could go down to the common room where they offer it for free. So I found a roommate, and in the end of August, the first weekend before school, I spoke to Veronica, and she said, "Oh, I'm not moving out anymore." So.
And in September, you stayed?
I did, because I had
Fine.
no choice.
Fine, you stayed.
Right.
But things were not good.
No. In November, I moved most of my things upstairs to my friend's apartment, and I was hardly ever at the apartment. If I was, I locked myself in my room because I didn't feel comfortable with her and her boyfriend being there all the time. I was scared, and I felt harassed and threatened by her.
Listen to me. Then you should be very happy that she said, let's sign off on this lease and it'll cost us each $600.
Well,
and then we're out of each other's hair.
Well, at that point, I was so frustrated with everything I had been put through that...
Get unfrustrated. Get unfrustrated and grow up. It wasn't good. It wasn't a good situation.
Well, can I say something?
Yeah, say whatever you want to say.
My mom and my father and I all discussed commuting because we didn't want to give Veronica any more money. I had paid for her boyfriend to sleep over multiple times. I was never there.
Listen to me.
It was like having a third roommate, though.
I don't care. Listen, your parents care if you're unhappy.
Right.
Your parents care. Courts don't care if you're unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
Courts don't care if you don't like her boyfriend sleeping over. They don't care.
Well, there's a clause in the lease that says that no person can stay more than 14 nights, and I kept track on a calendar, and it exceeded the 14 nights, and we got a possible eviction notice from it.
Yeah.
Your Honor,
Just a second.
Okay.
All of that suggests to me that you should be very happy to find a new place all by yourself.
I wasn't even living there, though, at that point.
That's your choice.
Right.
That's your choice. What do you want?
I wanted to say something on Elizabeth's defense, Your Honor.
That?
I'm her mother, and on December 16th, my husband and I went into the peninsula. We hooked up the cable and the TV and the DVD player. And
Because Veronica would no longer
just
let
a
me
second.
use hers.
Right. Elizabeth wasn't able to use it. We went downstairs and we met with the Peninsula management, and we wanted Veronica to sign off the lease. That's what we needed, so we wouldn't be responsible for the apartment any longer. And what we were going to do was have Elizabeth commute. So there was no reason for us to pay a transfer fee. But Veronica is the one that wanted to move out. She wanted her own apartment. And yes, we did want that too.
Your daughter wasn't staying there. She wasn't staying there because she was unhappy. Either she breaks the lease or she signs a transfer agreement. Those are the options.
But that was the option for Veronica too. She could have broken the lease.
Just to say, she could have. This is a much better thing to do, rather than breaking the lease, to sign an orderly transfer agreement so that the landlord doesn't say, I'm stuck because they broke the lease. What I want to do is I want to move into another place. This is what it's going to cost. Otherwise, I'm on the hook for the entire year lease from January until the following June.
But I didn't trust that Veronica would do anything. She hadn't done it in the past.
I don't care what you trusted. Right now, it's a fait accompli. It's done. Your daughter is responsible for half the transfer fee on the apartment. There's no issue with regard to that. The only issue that I have for you, Ms. DeLea, is did you have a password or any device that precluded the defendant from using the internet and or cable?
I had a password.
Just a second. That's either a yes or a no.
On the internet, yes.
Did she say to you at any point, I'm not interested in cable?
She told me in November.
That's either a yes or a no.
In November, yes.
What month's cable do you think she's responsible for half of?
September through January.
She's not.
Okay.
She's not responsible for any of those.
Your Honor, she disconnected my cable in December, and even though I was still paying for it, prevented me from watching it.
I don't care. There has to be a contract. There has to be an agreement.
Your Honor, I have
Listen to me very carefully.
Yes, ma'am.
There has to be a contract and an agreement.
I have one.
For
I
whom?
have an email, her writing that she would be responsible for half of all the cable and internet and electric bills.
Just a second. Did you tell me that you put a password so she could not use the internet?
There was a password on it originally, but... Excuse me.
I'm asking your daughter a question. Sit. You too.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Veronica DeLea says her former roommate, Elizabeth Peterson, owes for cable bills and an apartment transfer fee. Elizabeth is countersuing for the return of rent and harassment.
I'm asking whether she told you she wasn't going to use the internet, and you put a password on there that precluded her from tapping into the internet in your apartment.
I was required to put a password on the internet from the beginning, so yes, there was a password.
Did she have it?
No, ma'am.
Then she's not responsible for it.
Okay.
But she's responsible for half the transfer fee.
I just have...
Put your hand down.
Okay.
Stop being a baby. That's what you're responsible for. Just tell me what half the transfer fee is.
Half the transfer is $625.
Fine. You owe her $625 for that. Now, you want to give me your counterclaim in 30 seconds or less?
I have a breakdown of the
I'm not
counterclaim.
interested in your breakdown. Yeah, you have 30 seconds or less to tell me about your counterclaim, which is nonsense.
Well, my countersuit was because Veronica was using drugs in the apartment, and I'm on a full scholarship at my school, and that really, I could have lost my scholarship if she got caught at the apartment because we both signed the lease.
But you didn't.
No, we didn't. But one of the security guards approached me saying that he smelled.
You can't tell me anything that a security guard told you.
I have a report from him.
You can't tell me anything that anybody else said to you or wrote out in a statement that is hearsay. Do you have a police report?
I talked to the lieutenant of the police station because the security guard had him come down.
That's hearsay.
Well, I called and they didn't have a report. I was very surprised.
Listen, you happy now with your new roommates?
Yes, but I'm unhappy that my scholarship was in jeopardy. Well, and it was like having a third roommate there at the apartment.
My dear, did you lose your scholarship?
No.
Good. You owe her $625 transfer fee and your counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She demanded that I had to ask her permission for every visitor. But I asked just in case I had a test the next day because the walls are paper thin, you can hear everything through them. We had to divide the cabinets in the kitchen. I asked for one cabinet to put all my snacks in because I eat all organic. I don't know. She just went crazy, pretty much. She just doesn't care, so I'm going to live with people who aren't as selfish.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Polk versus Eskind. Step forward, please.
Victor Polk is suing the mother of his son's friend, Renata Eskind, for the cost to fix his car. Victor says Renata's son, 17-year-old Kerry Thomas, damaged the vehicle when he tried to jump over it.
Who jumped over the car? Raise your hand.
I did.
Stand over there. Mr. Polk, it is your claim that the defendant damaged your car.
Yes, ma'am.
He was playing a game with your son. I assume your son is sitting over there?
Yes, ma'am. That's Valentina.
And the game was to jump over your car.
Yeah.
Mrs. Eskind's son jumped over your car, landed on your car, dented your car. You want him to pay for your car.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Mrs. Eskind has some ridiculous defense. She says that your son goaded her son into jumping over the car.
That's correct.
That's wrong. Nobody goads somebody into doing something that's wrong and doesn't take responsibility.
He took responsibility.
Then he has to take responsibility for paying for the damage that he caused to the car. Reasonable?
Reasonable.
Great. So the only question is how much, right?
No, ma'am.
Why?
Because he didn't jump it alone, and he wasn't involved in it alone. They did it together. Both parents are both.
Just a second, Miss Eskind, are you telling me that this young man jumped on and damaged the car?
Yes.
Okay, you, talk to me.
Tell him.
You, talk to me.
Well, we were outside one October night. Me,
Listen,
him, and so.
I don't care if it was an October night, whether it was starry or not. All I want to know is you, an idiot over here, were playing a game of jumping over a car. Which idiot fell on the car?
I slid into the car.
Not him.
No, ma'am.
Then your mother is wrong. Put your hand down. Miss Eskind, I'm telling you what the law is. That's why you're here. Not what you feel in your gut as a mother. What the law is. He was lucky. He didn't cause damage to the car. He wasn't lucky. He did cause damage to the car.
The mother caused damage also.
No, my dear, not according to your son. You don't have your listening ears on. Not according to your son. According to your son, the only one that went into the car, slid into the car, was him. That's what he told me. So your thinking process, while understandable that the boys are playing, and they should both be responsible, is not what the law is. The law does not prescribe that he has to pay for damage that he did, because he can say, no, I'm not doing it. You want to do it to your father's car? That's fine. No, I'm not doing it. And if he didn't do it, then there wouldn't be damage to the car. Is that right, Mr. Eskind?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The only question I have for you...
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
not finished, Your Honor.
You're finished. The only question I have for you, sir, is, I looked very carefully at your complaint. You said that initially wasn't such a big deal, but then you realized that you had just had the car in a custom paint job.
Yes, ma'am.
Because it's a designer car. What kind of car is it?
Vintage 1991 Ford Mustang 5.0 convertible.
Okay. This incident happened on what date?
We don't have a date.
What date?
October the 10th.
I want to see the bill for painting the car prior to October 10th.
My initial paint job, my painter.
Don't give me a big story.
I don't have
Mr. Polk.
I don't have the receipt.
That's my problem.
The painter that painted my car, his name's Carlos. He's in America on a work visa from Mexico. I went back to Carlos to see if he could get me a receipt. Our business was cash-based, so therefore he did not...
Show me a withdrawal from your bank for $2,300.
I don't have a withdrawal
I don't
receipt.
believe you, sir. Then I don't believe that you spent $2,300 to paint your car. That's my problem. Got what I mean? I want to see a picture of the damage to the car.
Sure. These are before and after pictures. If you take a look at the paint job on that car, you'll see that it's an immaculate paint job.
It may be an immaculate paint job, sir. You should have gotten me a receipt.
Why is it in the front yard?
Just a second. I'm not speaking to you.
I was showing it off.
Put your hand down.
I'm proud of my car.
Why is it in the front yard?
Well, this whole fender has to be painted. There's no question about that. And it has to be fixed. There's a dent in it. Now I'll see your estimates to fix it. Oh, so this time you took her to a Chevrolet place.
Yes.
The first time you took her to an all-cash guy.
Carlos is no longer in Nashville, in my hometown.
Yeah, you're going to have to get it done for less. What do you want?
Your Honor, he's been working on this car for 5 years. He redid the inside
I've got
of it.
more than $10,000.
Let me ask you
invested
this
in
question,
car.
sir. Did you discuss with your child the game he was playing over your car?
Oh, yes, I did.
I want you to tell me about the discussion that you were having with the idiot about jumping over the car.
I told him that it was a ridiculous thing to do.
And what did he say to you?
He said he wasn't thinking. And that's the only explanation. Would you like to get up and tell her?
Yes, ma'am. Can I get up there and talk to you quick?
Oh, be my pleasure.
Oh. Well, first place, I didn't jump over the car at all. Like, I'm sorry. But the whole thing started, like, when we were playing basketball.
If you say anything, a sentence with the word like in it,
I'm sorry.
you can sit down.
Okay. This is what happened. We started playing basketball, and I bet him. I was like, I bet you I can jump over my dad's car.
Sit down. I don't want to hear anymore. You're an idiot.
Man, can I finish real quick?
Sit down. Just sit down. Mrs. Eskind has to pay for your car, sir, but she's not going to pay any more for the car than I think it's worth, because I don't think that you have to have the whole car repainted.
You do not understand how much time and effort and money I've sunk into this car.
Your son should have been more careful with it.
I cannot.
Listen to me. Your son should have been more careful with it.
I understand that.
Good. Shouldn't have been playing basketball around it. You think it would have gotten dented if a basketball hit it?
That's why I don't let them play basketball near my car.
It was right in the yard by the street.
Did I ask you anything? You're responsible because he's responsible. He's bigger than you are.
I never said I wasn't.
Good. Okay, now what's the piece of paper you want to show me?
This is the very first estimate he brought to me.
That I'll see.
On the night of the
That I'll
election,
see.
of the president election. I told him I did not mind working with him on half of those damages.
So is what you're telling me that the first estimate is just Price's Collision Center was $614.42?
Correct.
This is what he gave you first?
Yes.
Can you explain the disparity to me, sir, between $614.42 and the $2,300 you want now?
That is just for replacement of the fender. It is not for matching of the paint or anything like that.
That's not true. It says
she told
paint.
me on our
That's
initial.
not true. But that's not. Hey, that's not true. It says paint, labor, 3.4 hours at $38 an hour, $129. Body labor, 3 hours, $114. Parts, $219. It has everything here. It all adds up to $614.42.
The car could not be painted on just the fender.
I don't know that, sir, at all. That's your first
received that.
Fine. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $614.42. That's all.
His former landlord, Karen Cass, for having him falsely arrested for assault and battery.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 506 on the calendar in the matter of Felicier versus Cass.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Felicier, the defendant was your landlady for approximately 6 months, and according to your complaint, she had you falsely arrested for both assault and menacing in September 2007. So you want to be compensated for your bail and the time you spent in jail. Ms. Cass says that you were, in fact, high on drugs, that she had every right to call the police because you behaved in a threatening manner, which she will describe to me. Describe this arrangement. Was it a house, an apartment building?
She lived in a trailer, and I had just gotten a position at a Key Largo elementary school as a commercial electrician, and I needed somewhere to stay. So she rented me her screened-in porch for $400 a month.
On what date did you move into Miss Cass's screened-in porch?
Around January of '07.
How did you find the screened-in porch?
She had an ad in the paper for $400 a month.
What did the ad say, if you remember?
I think it said room for rent, $400.
Did it have a bathroom?
I had privileges to the kitchen and the bathroom inside the trailer, so I would sleep outside in the screened-in porch, and whenever I needed to use the utilities, I would go inside, no problem.
And there was one bathroom in the trailer?
Yes, there was.
Who else lived in the trailer?
Her by herself and her 3 dogs.
How do you support yourself, Miss Cass?
I have a pet sitting business called Precious Care Pet Sitting.
You mean you take care of them in your trailer?
No, I go to people's houses when they go out of town and take care of their pets.
That pays the bills?
Well, once in a while I had to add a roommate to help, but during the summertime it's slow, so I needed a roommate to help pay the bills.
So why don't you tell me, Miss Cass, how it came about that you had the plaintiff arrested.
Okay, Friday he came home and he was really happy that he didn't use any cocaine because he was starting a new job on Tuesday.
Let's start again. Friday was what date?
It was the Labor Day weekend, the Friday of Labor Day weekend. I'm thinking September 1st.
Of 07?
Yes, ma'am.
He came home and told you?
He didn't use cocaine. He was at a party and he was all excited because he was supposed to start a new job on Tuesday. He was unemployed. On Saturday, I woke up, he was gone. I didn't really keep track of where he was coming and going, and I get a call at 10 o'clock at night. He's all jacked up, stating that he found a real house, and he was really excited that he was moving out and not to be mad at him, that he'd be by later to get his things.
Had he ever used drugs when he lived in your house?
Not that I was aware of, Your Honor.
Okay. Did he come by that day?
Yes, ma'am. He came by at 3 o'clock in the morning. He was all wild-eyed and all hyper, and he kept saying, "Don't be mad at me, Mommy. Don't be mad at me, Mommy." But I got a real house with a bathroom, and he was all excited. And I said, "No problem. I don't mind." And I asked if he did use drugs, and he admitted it. And I also have it in the deposition that he took that he admitted it.
And
in the
what
deposition, this case was originally a civil case. So 3 months ago, he took a deposition and admitted that he did admit to me that he did cocaine.
I'd like to see it.
Yes, ma'am. And I also have his police report, his background, that he's been arrested for cocaine and trespassing
I'd
charges.
like to see the deposition first. Did you sue her?
Yes, I filed a suit for restitution, punitive damages, wages lost. I was in jail during my birthday. She put me in jail during my birthday.
And what happened with that case?
I turned it into a small claims because we couldn't come to a resolution in the civil.
Your Honor, his lawyers walked out in the middle of the deposition and made a motion to withdraw.
The lawyers withdrew from representing you?
Yes. May I add, because her lawyer was filing motions and injunctions and just making the whole thing harder than it really was.
What did you expect her to do, roll over?
Well, that's true, you know. But I just wanted her to admit that what she did was a lie.
Were you using drugs that night in September, sir?
No, not that night. Maybe the night that I left.
The night that you left?
The night that I left, yeah.
Yes.
But when I came to the property to get my property, no.
That night, the night that you left, were you using drugs?
Yes.
What kind?
Coke and marijuana.
Where'd you get it from?
One of her social friends.
One of her friends?
One of her known friends. I didn't know him.
It wasn't my friend.
I knew him through her because I didn't know nobody. I just got in town to work.
He knew from an old roommate.
Okay, so the night that you left, you came home 3 o'clock in the morning to get your stuff. Where were you going to live?
At where they offered me another place.
They offered you another apartment. Who's they?
Her mutual friend, Augusta.
So she offered you what kind of a place to live?
A room, indoors.
And you decided to take that?
Well, I decided to give her a notice that I was planning to move.
Okay, so you called her at 10 o'clock.
So, look, they offered me this place. I think I'm going to find a move.
And then you came home at 3 o'clock.
To get his stuff.
That's what you said to me. You came home at 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, when did you come home? You called her?
At night, that 10 o'clock that she's talking about. That's when she had all my stuff in the porch.
No, first you had to call her, sir. Otherwise, she wouldn't have known that you were moving, right?
Right.
So first you called her.
Yeah, I called her and told her I was planning to move. But then later on, at 3 o'clock you're talking about, I came maybe to get a toothbrush or something. But it wasn't to get my stuff and leave.
He came to get...
Okay. Shh. I don't know whether it is or whether it isn't. Whether he came to get his stuff or he came to get his toothbrush. Whatever it was. He was high. He came home to get his toothbrush. You had already packed up all of his things when he called you at 10 o'clock, you said, and put his stuff on the porch.
The next day, Your Honor. The next night.
What happened when he came home at 3 o'clock?
When he came home at 3 o'clock on Saturday night, he was just all wired and telling me not to be sorry, and he went in the bathroom and cleared all his personal items out, told me he was getting some of his clothes and he'd be back Sunday to get the rest of his stuff.
Fine. And then what did you do?
I just went back to sleep, and then Sunday, Augusta came over crying at 12 o'clock, begging me to take him back.
He did?
The girl. The girl that he moved in with.
Planning to move in with.
So you didn't move in with her?
No, I planned to move.
What happened with Augusta?
Well, when I told her that I was planning to move, and then I went back to get my toothbrush or bathroom belongings, like she said, she had my things on the porch.
What happened with the other girl?
So when I went to get to the property, she called the cops. The cops came. They said, "You can't do that to him. He has tenants' rights. You have to go through the eviction process."
So you have to go
they told
through
me
the
for the
process.
night. They told me for the night, see if you can go somewhere, let the heat cool down. All right, no problem. I go to Augusta's house, and she followed.
Just a second. When you went to Augusta's house, were you high?
No.
When did you get high?
Probably the night before, because I was there maybe 2 nights.
Go ahead.
And then they told me to go somewhere for the night. I said, all right, I think I'm going to go to the lady that offered me the place. So I go to Augusta's, hey, look, this lady's causing me some drama over there. Can I spend the night over here? She followed me to that house after she wrote on the police report that she was terrified for her life. Even the police officer told me himself, hey, if she's so scared, why she followed you? Lies, more lies than false, whatever she did. So when she showed up at Augusta's house, she said, this lady's over here causing you problems, stirring up trouble. I can't deal with this. So I went back to her property, spend the night, no problem. Morning came.
Even though the police told you not to go?
Yeah, they told me if that doesn't work out, though, you have no choice. Come back, no problem.
They didn't tell that to you at all?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Edgar Felicia says his former landlord, Karen Cass, owes for falsely charging him with assault and battery. Karen claims Edgar broke into her home and attacked her.
Police don't say that.
No, they know because...
Police don't say that. They say you better let things cool off for a night and come back tomorrow.
That's true, but if you don't have no other place to go...
They didn't say that to you.
Well, due respect, I was there.
No, I'm telling you. I've been around a block longer than you've been born. The police never told you should come back if it didn't work out with Augusta.
They told me to find somewhere else to stay for the night.
That's right. That's what they told you.
And if that didn't go well, to come back, okay, no problem.
Oh.
So I come back, and I sleep, I'm just telling you what they told me. I mean, you know what I mean? So I go to sleep, and I wake up the next morning late to work. I got fired because there's drama with her. I go to Publix to get me a little Aunt Jemima breakfast, and right when I'm coming into the trailer to open the door, she had it with the chain. Boom. That's when I started recording, which I have here the recording of what she's talking about, that I came in the house. And the whole recording shows I didn't even get through that door.
How did you record that?
On my camera phone. I had a camcorder on my phone. I said that was the only option I had. I had no witnesses around me. I already seen where this was going to go.
So why did you go back there?
What, that morning?
Yeah.
Because that's where I lived. That's where I lived. They told me, if you can't find nowhere to go, just go back. And when I went to work, I came home. She had all this locked up in the house.
So what did you do?
So then I just started recording. And she's on the phone talking to her boyfriend. Turns out her boyfriend called the cops. The cops come. When the cops come, they tell her, so what happened? She's saying, oh, I was banging in the door, whatever. And I've seen my mom get beat for 15 years, and I'd be darned I ever put my hands on a woman. Sure, I have drug-related cases in my past, but I have never had anything violent. I mean, I weigh 150 pounds soaking wet. I'm not a threat to nobody, you know? And for her to accuse me of something that I did not do, and my dad had to send me bail money from New York. I spent my birthday in jail. I lost my job, and to add...
You mean, do you think that none of that had to do with the fact that you were using cocaine?
Nah, because that was like 2 days before.
Listen to me. If you used cocaine 2 days before, you used it 2 days before that, and 2 days before that.
No.
So you just used it once in anticipation of your birthday? Is that what you're telling me?
It was a get-together at her friend's house, so, I mean, they had it there, and it was just a little social, so we did it. So then later on, when I went back to the house, that's when she had
How many times have you been arrested for possession of drugs? I don't want to say.
I believe twice.
Background check.
99 and 04.
Could it have been more than twice?
Not that I remember. Shouldn't be.
Well, you would know how many times you were arrested for drugs.
Twice. 99 and 04.
Now I'll take a look at the rap sheet.
7 times. Thank you.
Well, here's the 99 possession. They stop you on traffic violations, right?
Like tickets?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a couple tickets.
Charge 1 was a non-moving traffic violation, but charge 2 was cocaine possession on the same date. That was 2004.
Yeah, that was, a matter of fact, Christmas Eve, I believe.
Right. You had an arrest in 2005.
Yeah, I think. I mean, what's it
guilty?
for? And as you're looking at the report, I know you don't see anything violent in there.
Nothing violent. I see a trespass only.
Right. So that's, you know, it's out of my character. Besides the fact I seen my mom get beat all my life, so.
I'd like to see your film. And then I'd like to see your complaint. The complaint that you lodged against him.
Oh, yeah, I have it right here, man.
That's the porch there. This is the morning I'm coming back from Publix. Boom, there's a chain.
What are you doing? I can come in the house, I have keys to the house. Don't start us when you use the microwave.
You're not allowed in the house. I told you you're only staying on the porch.
No, how about you use the bathroom, lady?
You're not.
Take a shower, lady.
You're not supposed to be in the bathroom. They said
I'm not supposed to be in the bathroom?
on the porch, Edgar.
That's last night for you guys.
Get out of my face.
I can't just stay on the porch. I got keys to the trailer, lady. You can't just put a chain on it and me not take a shower. Well, then you gotta put something in there for me to cook and bathe myself in bath. No, whatever. I just went. Bro, that was just for last night.
Oh, and did they tell you just for last night?
Yes, I asked her, because I told her, look at the chain she put. Now, what am I supposed to do? She goes, well, just go outside and anything for tonight, but tomorrow's okay. They never said that's supposed to be in the house, you dimwit. They never said you're supposed to be in the house. I can come in the house and use the utilities, I'm supposed to. Then why am I paying you rent for? You know what I mean? Do you want me to call so I can use the microwave over here? I'll call him, don't worry about it, I got the number.
There's only part of the tape. He did get in the house.
How did he get in the house?
He broke the chain. It's on the police report, Your Honor.
You did swear under oath, right? Yeah.
I hit speed dial on my boyfriend's phone because I was hysterical, and my boyfriend called the cops. It's a very small town. The next thing I knew, there were 4 cops. What he's not telling you is the night before, he had pushed me and tore the phone out of the wall, which he admits in the deposition and in the police report.
Can I see the police report,
yes,
please?
There were 2 incidences before that.
No, let me see the police report. Would you please, I must be missing it, would you give this back to Ms. Cass? Would you please show me where he admits that he pulled the phone out of the wall?
Yeah, it's in the...
Just show me, you say that in the police report he admitted that he tore the phone out of the wall. Show me in the police report where he admits tearing the phone out of the wall. That would be a violent act, would it not, Mr. Felice? Ripping the phone out of the wall would be a violent act.
Yes, ripping the phone off the wall.
Okay, and you...
But unplugging a charger would not. There was no ripping. Unplugged.
Shh. Well, whether you pulled the phone out of the wall, sir, or you pulled the charger out of the wall so that she could not get to the police is irrelevant. Either way, your purpose was to prevent her from calling the police.
My purpose? Well, they came over that night.
Your purpose was to prevent her from calling the police. Otherwise, would you kindly tell me what was the reason that you pulled the charger out of the wall? Were you trying to bake pancakes?
No, I was trying to give her a second to think about what she was doing.
You were trying to prevent her from calling the police.
To make a false report, yes. Because everything she did after that was false. She said I tried to kick in the door. She said I cornered it in the room. I mean...
It's over. You're not going to win the lottery here.
Nah.
It's finished.
I'm not looking for the lottery.
It's finished. First of all, you are not allowed to rent the porch on your trailer. It is an illegal thing that you're doing. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that? And you can't take money from him and then decide that he's too much trouble. Too much trouble right in the middle of his month. Because he paid you by the month or by the week?
He paid me by the week, and he was advertised as a roommate.
If he's a roommate, then he has kitchen privileges.
Correct, but that night the police said to stay out of the house until I went to the state's attorney's office the next day, which I got.
No, they gave him a cooling off night. That's what they do. They give him a cooling off night. The police do not have the power to evict him. They have the power to say to somebody when they get a call of alleged domestic violence, look, I don't see anything terrible going on here. Go take a walk. Cool off tonight. Things will look better in the morning. That's what the police will do. You do not have the right, after taking money from him, to lock him out. When you say he's a roommate, you didn't even...
Ma'am, there's no locks on the door. He was never locked out.
Well, he was locked out because there was a chain on the door.
That's my house, but they told me until we go to the state's attorney's office in the morning, I have an injunction, a restraining order. They said till I go to the state's attorney's office at 9 in the morning, he's not allowed.
Are you telling me that you got a restraining order between the time he left the night before and the time he came back in the morning? Of course not. You didn't. It's over. Move on with it. You did, in fact, commit a violent act. You prevented her from calling the police, which is what she wanted to do because she felt threatened. And you prevented her from calling the police by pulling her phone charger. Evidently, she doesn't have a phone that actually plugs in. She uses a portable phone that's charged into the wall. It's over. Forget about it. Finished. Both of you. Now that it's in my hands, you've filed a civil case. She had a lawyer. You had a lawyer. You all both spent all kinds of money. Finished. It's over. Forget it.
That's what I've been... I mean, this has been a year and something.
It's been a year. Your
Your
case
Honor,
is dismissed.
I have
It's
spent
been a year.
$4,000 in attorney fees.
I
for the
don't
civil suit.
care. It's over. Finished. You both behaved inappropriately. He did, and you did, because there was probably a little bit of what he said that was true. That you wanted him out, that you exaggerated a little bit once it became testy. There's no question in my mind, Ms. Cass, that that's what you did. But he provoked it. He can't come home high on cocaine. He doesn't even know what he's doing if he's high on cocaine. Do you understand, sir? Goodbye.
I wasn't high when I came home.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
No, everything was good when we moved in.
Sister, Deborah Carrigan, and her daughter, Rachel Lopez, for rent, utility bills, and the value of a Glock handgun.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 499 on the calendar in the matter of Carrigan versus Carrigan.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Mr. Carrigan, the defendant is your sister.
Yes.
Which one is the sister?
This one.
Who are you?
I'm her daughter.
Sit down. There came a time when you and your sister were living together in a house. Month and year that you moved in together in this house.
It was September of 2007.
Okay. Now, prior to that, according to you, Mr. Carrigan, you had purchased a handgun from your sister for $250. Then there came a time, subsequent to September of 2007, you're going to tell me the date, that you and the defendant had an altercation in the house. Police were called. Police confiscated the gun.
Yes.
Your sister says it's her gun. You say it's your gun. You paid for it. She was supposed to change the registration, sort of never got around to it. So the first thing I'm going to deal with is this gun. When did you purchase it?
I went up to Vancouver, Washington, and visited her.
Just give me a date.
Probably in November of '05.
And you had the gun unregistered since November of '05.
Yes.
And the police now have it.
Yes.
That's too bad. Right?
Yeah.
Perfect. You don't expect to get help from me in that area, do you?
Not at all.
So you don't get your money back and you don't get the gun back. Somebody gives you a handgun. This is not a little teeny handgun. This is a serious handgun. According to you, it's a Glock?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, in 4 years' time that you have it, it should have been registered. And the fact that it wasn't registered, you get no help from me. So the police now have the gun?
Yeah.
Perfect. It's where it belongs.
She was living out of state. I went up to see her.
I don't care.
Yeah.
You're a grown man. In your jurisdiction, is the gun supposed to be registered?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she had asked me to take the gun because
I don't care. I don't care what the reason is. You live in a jurisdiction where you're supposed to register handguns. You had the gun for 4 years, unregistered. You don't come to court to ask them to help to get your gun back.
Yeah.
That was your responsibility. All right. So that takes care of gun, over. Now, let's take care of rent. You moved out in November.
Yes, ma'am. We moved out because of the escalation of violence that he was displaying.
You didn't want to live there anymore. You moved out in November.
Thanksgiving Day.
And you paid rent for November.
Yes, ma'am.
What rent do you want?
Well, our agreement was that we would give each other a 60-day notice.
When did you make that agreement?
When we moved in. And
is that right?
First it was 90 days, then it was 60 days, then it went back to 90, then it went back to 60. He kept changing it. So it was difficult to determine.
Is it at least 30?
Yes. We had notified him in September that we would be moving out within the next couple months.
That's not true.
Well, tell me when that conversation took place, Ms. Carey.
I don't remember exactly what date, but it became very apparent in September that we had to move on.
When did you tell your brother that you were, in fact, moving out? In September, it became apparent. Apparent
Yes.
is not a contract.
Well, I told him in September, we're moving out within the next couple of months.
No, she
That's
didn't.
not an answer.
And
no, that's no, Ms. Corrigan. That's not giving him notice that you're moving out within the next couple of months.
2 weeks before the incident where I had to call the police, I told them, him and his wife, that if there are any further incidents of violence or display of rage, that we would move out immediately.
Okay. So describe to me what happened on the 26th of November.
It was actually the Sunday before that we decided that we had to get out immediately.
Well, tell me what happened, because that's germane, because otherwise you are responsible for December's rent.
He and his wife were asking me what day I was moving out. I didn't know exactly what day I was moving out, so I was unable to answer their question.
Just a second. They said to you, what day are you moving out, and you answered what?
I said, I don't know. I'll know in the next few days. That was my answer.
Okay, I don't know. I'll know in the next few days.
Yes.
Did you tell them what month you would be moving out?
I did not.
Why not?
Because I didn't know exactly what day I was going to be moving out.
I didn't say day, Miss Corrigan. If you said, I don't know what day, but I'll be moving out in November, or I'll be moving out in December, that at least gives them some indication of when they have to start to look for someone else to take over part of the rent, if they need somebody else to take over part of the rent, because I assume you were there because you were paying rent.
Yes, we were
So
paying
why didn't
rent.
you tell them, I'm moving out in November? I don't know what date.
I was upset, and I didn't want to go into...
That's right. So you didn't give him an answer.
Correct.
So you didn't give him an answer.
I didn't give him an answer that
you
he
didn't
wanted.
Give him no, you didn't give him an answer because you were upset.
I was feeling cornered because in several occasions before that...
I don't care before that. He and his wife said to you, when are you moving out? Just give me a date. And you said, I can't give you a date because I don't know now. When you, in fact, knew you were moving out in November. So you chose not to do that. Go ahead. I'm listening.
So he didn't like that I wasn't going to give him a specific date because I didn't know.
Just tell me what he said to you and what you said to him. Not that he didn't like. I don't want to hear he didn't like.
Okay. He was getting upset, more and more upset. And I said, you know, this is not a time to continue this conversation. I'm going to go into my room.
What did he say to you?
I don't remember exactly what he was saying to me.
I just was asking her when she was going to move out.
Well, he was yelling at me.
Don't speak. You were asking her when she was moving out. She said to you, I don't know when I'm moving out. I can't give you a date. Then you said to her what?
I said, well, we need to know so we can make arrangements ourselves.
Okay, and she said to you what?
I don't have to answer you. I don't have to talk to you.
And then?
And then she went into her room and shut the door.
And then?
That's when I took the picture and broke the picture.
So you took a picture.
Out of pure frustration.
And you broke it.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's part of what she's suing for. So that, you know, you're responsible for.
I don't feel like I am.
Well, listen, you want to talk about your feelings, go someplace else. I don't care about your feelings.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robert Carrigan says his sister Deborah Carrigan and her daughter Rachel Lopez owe for rent, bills, and the value of a gun. The defendants are countersuing for the return of their security deposit and destruction of property.
Okay, then what happened?
That's when I called the landlord and gave him a 30-day notice. But I had called him on November 1st and given him a 60-day notice because I'd been home from the hospital a couple weeks and I figured I'd be well enough to move by January.
What was wrong with you?
I had open heart surgery on October 8th.
So you gave the landlord 30 days notice?
Yeah, I gave him a 60-day notice on the 1st of November, and then they started giving me problems about paying the utility bills.
They had paid you for November?
No, they never paid me for the November bills.
Your Honor, we weren't giving him problems about paying the bills. I wanted to see copies of the bills.
Just 1 second. So do you have those bills?
Yeah.
Can I see them, please? And then I'll show them to her.
Here you go. I have this broke
What is
down.
this?
That's for getting the carpets cleaned after we moved out.
We had cleaned the carpets 3 months before we moved out.
But we had 3 dogs that...
I don't care whether, I'm not there yet.
Okay.
Would you show her the bills, please?
We had also...
Shh. Those are the bills. Look at them. What is her share of the utilities?
It came to $299.34.
And what was her share of the rent for December?
The rent is $330 each for them.
Are you suing her?
Yes.
Stand up. Did you pay your rent for December?
No, we did not live there in December.
You don't have to live there in December. Mother had an agreement. Did you have an agreement to give him notice too?
In September, we gave them notice saying that we would be gone.
No, she didn't.
No, you didn't. I find that you did not. I find that the statement, "we'll be moving out within a couple of months," is not giving them notice. So far, you owe him $959. That's for your share of the utilities and December's rent for the two of you.
Hey, he also...
Now, you have a counterclaim. Your
Yes.
counterclaim is for the value of the picture.
Yes.
That he owes you. How much
Yes.
was the photograph?
I
Reframe
went
it.
and had an estimate done, what it would cost to restore this picture.
And reframe it.
And the estimate just for the picture is $269.38.
Let me see it, please.
And then I have 3 different price ranges of frames ranging from like $35 to $80 to replace the frame.
Can I see the photograph, please? Oh, it's a great picture. Okay. We have to pay for that, sir. All right. Your counterclaim was for the value of the picture and the return of your security deposit. You had a security deposit of $900?
That is correct.
And he had a security deposit of $900. And you moved out when?
On December 23rd.
How much did you get back from the landlord?
We didn't get anything back because there was a redwood.
Just a second. I just want to know if you got anything back.
No.
Do you have a statement from the landlord that indicates that you're not getting anything back?
Yes.
I'd like to see it, please.
Here it is.
How many dogs did you have?
I have 2 dogs.
What kind?
I have a Labrador Retriever and then a mix. He's about 30 pounds.
And you?
I have an Australian Shepherd.
This is excessive traffic and chewing of the redwood railings.
It was his dog that did the chewing.
Okay, very good. You don't get your security deposit back. It costs more than that to fix that and to clean the carpets, according to the bills that are there. Okay. Your sister owes you $659. I have given you credit for the photograph restoration and framing. Clear?
Yes.
That's all. Step out.
All right, is that excused? You may step out.
He was displaying escalating fits of violence.
It was actually pure frustration at the fact that she wouldn't give me a straight answer.
We had to get out of there.
I do not consider him family anymore.
I'm done with him.
It's over.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of loss versus loss. Step forward, please.
Deborah Loss is suing her son, 25-year-old Michael Loss, for loans to pay off debt and to make his car insurance payments.
This is your son.
Yes.
How many children do you have, Mrs. Loss?
I have 2.
How old is this one?
He's 25.
And your other one?
29.
Does your 29-year-old live at home?
No. He's
On his
married.
own?
Yes.
Married on his own.
Yes. 2 children.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Loss?
I'm a manager of a restaurant.
For how long?
Going on 3.5 years.
Why does your mother take care of your son?
Why? Mostly because she chooses to. I mean, he wants to go and spend time with her, and she enjoys it. I mean,
What I'm asking you is how come he doesn't live with you?
well, he does. I mean, it's a back and forth, you know what I mean? Like, he stays with me, and then he'll go there sometimes on the weekend whenever she's out of school. And
Who takes care of him when you're at the restaurant?
my girlfriend.
Is that right?
Or my mother.
And where is the child's mother?
She's at home.
So you live with the child's mother,
Yes.
but your mother takes care of him a good deal of the time.
Yes.
You advanced your son some money on condition that he would pay you back.
Yes.
I believe that was for insurance.
Yes.
How much did you advance him?
I paid a total of $1,344.
Was this car insurance?
Yes, ma'am.
Did your mother pay for your car insurance for you?
Yes, she did.
That's what you seem to indicate in your answer, that you did in fact borrow this money from your mother, but you don't have to return it because she lost an inheritance that was rightfully yours.
Yes.
All right. When you initially borrowed this money from your mother, did you ever tell her that you would pay her the money back?
Yes, I did.
When did you tell her that you would pay her the money back?
I told her that I would give her money at the beginning of every month.
For the insurance?
Yes.
When did you change your mind?
I decided that I needed this money that she had lost during her bankruptcy, and I didn't feel that I should be entitled to pay it back.
Miss Loss?
Yes.
How often does your grandson stay with you?
He stays with me just about every weekend, sometimes a couple days during the week, quite often.
So you enjoy having your grandson around?
I love it.
Good. Okay, tell me about this inheritance, sir.
Okay, it was actually through my grandmother. She gave this money to my mother, and my mother had it in her name. And it was, I'm not exactly sure the exact amount. I think it was around about a $12,000 to $13,000, which was supposed to be split evenly for tuition for school between me and my brother, which my grandmother had explained to me.
How long ago was this?
It was probably 9 years ago, maybe 8, I don't know.
Okay, go ahead.
And that's just basically all that I really ever knew about it. And then my mother had to file bankruptcy due to her last marriage. And it was like a down spiral for her as far as she had to go into debt. Well, during that bankruptcy, she lost everything. She lost all the tuition money for me and my brother, her van, and a few other things. And it upset me, you know what I mean? Because I was planning on going to college. But as of right now, I'm got a son, and I've been trying to work to do better, but
Who did you live with when you were growing up?
my mother,
Did she work?
yes, she did.
What kind of work did she do?
She was a school teacher, and plus she even worked a second-time job after she got out of school.
Is there any particular reason why her finances became difficult?
Due to her ex-husband's medical condition.
What was the nature of his medical condition?
He had epilepsy and had a bunch of hospital bills, which drove my mother into debt.
So there were medical bills that she was responsible for because he was her husband.
Right.
And?
Honestly, I don't think that she should have allowed for it to continue. And otherwise, I don't think I would have had to have lost that tuition money. You know what I mean? I was entitled to.
Mr. Loss, if you had said to your mother a year and a half ago, I'd like you to pay for my insurance on my truck or my car because I really can't afford to pay it, and you really owe me that money anyway because I think, wrongly, I will tell you, but I think that since you lost Grandma's money that I was really supposed to have, you didn't lose it gambling or drinking. I mean, she was taking care of her responsibilities and at the same time taking care of her two sons. But if you had said that to her right up front, I would say, and if your mother continued to give you this money, then you would write. But that's not what happened, Mr. Loss. What happened was you said to your mother, I'll pay you each month. And then you said, well, I really shouldn't have to pay her back. Why shouldn't I have to pay her back? Well, maybe because the sky is blue, maybe because it's Tuesday, maybe because it's Friday. Maybe because 9 years ago, she lost my grandmother's money that I was supposed to have. What if she didn't have money to feed you? Do you think she should have used Grandma's money? Of course. If your grandmother wanted you to have the money, sir, she would have put the money in trust for your first name?
Michael.
Michael Loss. And your brother?
He came to me asking for a loan of $1,500. The reason why I gave him the loan of $1,500 was that he had given me $400 of his stimulus check towards his insurance. So I felt, since he was trying to make an attempt to pay back some monies, that I would go ahead and take out the $1,500.
Did he say anything about using this inheritance money as a write-off?
No.
No. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
What'd you need the $1,500 for?
To catch up on my cell phone bill, and I had a power bill that was high, too.
See what happens? Even though you work, sometimes you work, you don't make enough money. Just like your mother. She worked, she was a school teacher, according to you, had the second job, but then all of a sudden, her husband got sick. She had hospital bills, so with best intentions and working very hard, she still couldn't deal with it. Right?
Right. That's correct, man.
Aren't you sorry you're here?
Am I sorry?
Yeah.
No.
You should be. $2,844. That's what you owe your mother, and an apology. That's all. Step out.
Is suing her ex-boyfriend, Jonathan Bojanowski, for a loan to have his car repaired, the return of a PlayStation, and an assault.
Order. All rise. That's case number 525 on the calendar in the matter of Wynn versus Bojanowski.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Ms. Nguyen, according to your complaint, the defendant was a friend of yours. He moved into your home. I don't think he was paying rent, but he stayed in a room in your house.
Yes, ma'am.
It is your claim that he owes you some money, I think, for having his car fixed. You laid out some money for him.
Yes, ma'am.
And at some point, got into an altercation. You claim he assaulted you. And when he ultimately moved out, he took property that belongs to you, which was a PlayStation. The defendant says that you actually destroyed all of his furniture by putting it out in the snow. And he also says that since he moved out, you've embarked upon a campaign to defame him. So, how did you know each other?
We met at the end of August, actually, online. And we were friends at first. And in October, we started dating. And he ended up moving in November because he ended up getting kicked out of his other place. And I made an agreement to come live with me temporarily until we can find our own place, because it wasn't my house I was living in. It was my parents' house, and I wasn't supposed to have anyone there.
Okay. First, tell me about this money that you allegedly loaned to him.
His car started having problems in mid-September, and he had to replace a lot of things on the engine. The whole brake lines had to be replaced.
Your Honor, the only actual thing that was replaced on the car at the time when I got it was the brake lines, and which is, anybody knows, is a $30, $40 part, and I repaired the brake lines myself.
Okay. How much money do you claim you gave him to fix the car?
About $800. He lied. The ball joint had to be replaced.
Just a second. Do you have proof of the money that you gave him?
Here's the proof, and my witness. She was there when I gave him money too. She was in the car with me.
I just want to see what proof you have. I have here is $70 so far on this page for advanced auto parts. And then there's another advanced auto parts for $6.51. The other thing that you have here is a $300 cash withdrawal.
I had given him my debit card and my PIN number to get the cash withdrawal for his part for his car.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Just a second.
She was there when she witnessed I had given him more money to repair his cars.
Stand up. Give me your last name.
Wynn?
You related?
Yes.
How?
Sisters.
I don't want to hear you. Sit down. $76 is what you can prove. Now, tell me about the PlayStation.
The PS3, when we were dating, he had loaned his PS3 out to a friend who ended up stealing his PS3. And so when I break up and stuff, he ended up taking my PS3 with.
I ended up taking
I have a receipt for my PS3.
Just a second. Go ahead.
I didn't take anything. She ended up giving me my PlayStation because what happened was...
That's not true.
Put your hand down.
What had happened here is when they threw all my stuff out in the snow, there was a lot of contents that weren't actually included. So within the month following my stuff being in the snow, she ended up giving me stuff back.
When did she give you the PlayStation back?
About maybe 2 or 3 weeks afterwards. And also she gave me like $2,000 in recording equipment back.
That was mine.
Just a second. Now I'm going to hear about this alleged assault. You were having an argument with him.
Yes,
about
ma'am.
what?
We were arguing because I was on the phone with this girl named Jamie, and he got upset. He goes, if you're going to talk on the phone when I'm in the room, then go to the other room. And I went to the other room. So as soon as I got off the phone, because I didn't give him my undivided attention, because I always have to give him my undivided...
Don't tell me, but just tell me
and so
what he said and what you said.
We got into an argument, and basically I was like, we're done. And I demanded the house key back, because we were getting kicked out of my house already, because my parents had found out he moved in.
You mean your parents didn't know he was living with them?
I live in Buffalo for school. We have a home in Buffalo, and we also have a home in Rochester. My parents were living in the home in Rochester.
So you were living alone with him in the home in Buffalo?
With
her
siblings.
brother that she was paying to keep his mouth shut.
Don't
That's not
interrupt again.
Okay,
That wasn't
Do you
true.
understand?
Yep.
Yep is not an answer
Yes.
in court.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes would be an answer. Okay. You told him he had to leave. And when you told him he had to leave, how long had he been living there?
He had been there for about 3.5 weeks, maybe.
It's actually over a month.
It was now over a month.
What part of don't speak didn't you understand?
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Good. He was there 3.5 weeks, and you told him to get out.
Yes, I basically...
Just a second. You can't tell him to get out and just go that moment, because whether you liked it or not, a tendency was created, and he has to have a certain amount of notice. All of his things were there? His furniture was there? His stereo equipment was there?
Yes.
His clothes were there?
Yes.
Good.
Everything was given back to him, but we signed for a contract we were moving out.
Listen, I'm asking questions. So you told him to leave, and according to you, he left.
But he didn't give me back the house key, and I demanded...
Just answer my question. You told him to leave, and he walked outside, and he got into his car.
Yes, ma'am.
And then what did you do?
I went to his car, telling him that, give me the house key, and when you come with a police escort, you can get all your stuff.
According to you, you jumped into the passenger seat of the car.
I had text messages on my other phone that he stole. He made threats to my brother. You can call my brother, saw this.
I'm not calling your brother. You told him to leave, and he left. And I assume you told him to leave because you in some way felt threatened. Is that a fair statement?
For my brother, basically. He's always made threats towards my brother. I'm going to kill your brother. I'm going to kill your brother. Because he didn't like my brother.
I assume that you told him to leave because you in some way felt threatened.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you jump into his car for if you felt threatened?
Because I just felt like this is...
You were angry.
I was angry, and that's the easier way to do it.
You were angry.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened when you jumped into the passenger seat of his car?
We started arguing in the car. He goes, I'm not going to give you the house key. This is my house key. So we started arguing more. He drove off of the car and goes, fine, you want to go for a ride? We'll go for a ride. And then when he started driving all over Buffalo, he started assaulting me. I have pictures of my whole face.
When he was driving all over Buffalo, you say he started hitting you.
Yeah, he started pounding on me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Yen Win says ex-boyfriend Jonathan Bozhanowski owes for a loan, a PlayStation, and an assault. Jonathan is countersuing for the destruction of property and defamation of character.
Now you can speak, sir. She told you to leave.
The beginning of the story is completely false because I was at her house when she started.
Just a second. She told you to leave.
She told me she was destroying my stuff, so I came home and tried to get my laptop.
Who told you that she was destroying your stuff?
She called me on the phone.
She called you?
Yes, I was actually at her house when I received the call.
So you're at her house, and this is a girlfriend?
No, this is just a friend of mine.
Friend.
I've known her for
And
years.
you received a call from the plaintiff telling you...
To come get my stuff or else she was going to destroy it.
And then you went home?
Yep, and then she had been basically on the couch, she had been drinking. I grabbed my laptop, and then she jumps on top of me, knocking the laptop out of my hand.
Put your hand down, don't speak.
At that point, I just want to avoid the situation, so I grab my laptop and go to my car and back out of the driveway, and then that's when she jumps in the car. And I'm like, what are you doing? And that's when she started getting verbally and physically aggressive. And then
Well, what
talking
did she
about
do
that
physically?
and that I've been cheated on her, this and that. And basically that just caused her to get enraged. And then she started asking questions about this person, that person. And I was never arrested for assault.
I didn't ask you that. You're missing a whole bunch of stuff. She's going to show me pictures of where she was injured. And what I'm asking you is, who put their hands on who first?
Well, she put her hands on me, and also the next day, she heard the audio of her telling me that her cousin came over, took her car from her, threw her out of the house, and also beat her up in the process. She witnessed the audio that I had on my old phone that I lost.
Well, that's too bad. That's hearsay.
It is too bad.
That's hearsay.
Your Honor.
Put your hand down. Now I want to see the police report.
I was the only one that was hurt.
Just a second. I don't care if you were the only one that was injured.
I didn't touch him.
I don't believe that that's true, by the way, Mr. Nguyen. I don't believe, listen to me, I don't believe that that's true, that you didn't touch him. I believe you were out of control. That's the only reason that somebody in your circumstance would jump in the passenger seat of a car if they were afraid of somebody, if they were out of control and jealous. Because it is true that you called him at her house.
I told...
Just a second. It is true that you called him at her house.
Yeah, because I didn't know.
Right.
I didn't know she was.
You
at her
left
house.
that out of your story.
I didn't know he was at her
Listen,
house.
you left that out of your story.
But can I say why though? He had drank about 40 ounce. I don't know what you call those big bottles of beer. He was driving drunk. I have beer bottles still at my house.
I wasn't even at her house.
The police even said he was.
Listen to me. You were furious when he came home.
Yeah.
So I believe that you put your hands on him first. He may have hit you harder, but you put your hands on him first. Because otherwise you would have stayed in your house. If he was drunk and out of control, and you were in control, you wouldn't have run out of your house when he left and jumped in his car.
I didn't have. Can I say that I also didn't have one drink because I just came home from work.
I said you were out of control, furious. Okay. You told the police officers that nothing happened. You had a verbal argument with him.
Can I say why though?
No. When asked about injuries to her face and neck, she said, I must have fell.
Because he threatened me in the car.
Yeah,
though.
right. He was going.
But
Give me the
like,
pictures,
after
please.
this,
Give me the pictures, please. Okay, good. Now, I'm going to hear you counterclaim.
Well, I'm counterclaiming for that night I came back there, and then she informed me that they were changing the locks. So then the next day...
Why didn't you give her the key back?
Well, because I have everything I own there. I mean, my recording equipment...
It's reasonable.
Okay.
Got it.
And the next day, my friend who lives a block away drives by and says, I think...
You can't tell me what your friend says.
Well, notified
Just tell me what
that,
you can't tell me what he notified you. That's hearsay.
Well, basically on that Saturday, I drove by there and saw all my stuff sitting outside in the snow.
What stuff?
Everything I own, as far as...
Well, it wasn't everything, because she gave you back some of your stuff, according to
well, as far as my oak bedroom set, my furniture...
Did you put his bedroom set out on the lawn?
I didn't do it.
Who did?
It was my family because they didn't want him on the premises anymore.
Shh. I don't care whether it was your family or you. You're
But he
responsible.
he agreed that basically to get the police escort.
Don't tell me what he basically agreed to. You can't put his furniture out in the snow.
He agreed. No, it wasn't snowing then. It was the weather was perfect.
Pictures, Your Honor,
I want you to not interrupt.
Okay, sorry.
It took him 3 days. I called him every day, 3 days in a row, and he agreed that he was going to pick it up that Friday. He never came.
When did you put his stuff out on the lawn? On
The
what
next
date?
day of the assault.
You can't do that. You can't do
He
that.
said he was coming that day to pick it up. I waited for him.
You can't do that.
He agreed that he was going to leave outside.
You can't. Show me proof of that.
I have phone call
Show
records.
me proof that he agreed that you should put his furniture
I didn't say outside. He was just
Show
to
me.
come get all the stuff. He never showed up. He didn't show up till Sunday.
Listen. Show me proof that he said to put his stuff out on the lawn.
I don't have any.
Well, then you can't put his stuff out on the lawn. Let me see what was put out on the lawn, please. Where is most of this stuff now? I didn't ask you.
Basically, it's...
Now, don't give me basically. I don't want to hear basically. I asked you a direct question.
It's in Cheektowaga.
Is it in your home?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes.
It's in your home. Good. Now talk to me about defamation of character.
Well, since basically...
I don't want to hear basically.
Okay.
I just want you to give me a fact.
After she threw my stuff out, I changed my phone number. She then began calling my boss, telling my boss that I'm selling cocaine.
Don't tell me what she told your boss.
Well, then she also went online, posted this information on Craigslist using my picture and saying that I'm a drug dealer, I've had my house raided, I beat my dog.
Let me see. How many times have you been arrested?
Since 2001?
No.
Once.
Forever.
Maybe about 3 or 4.
Well, that's an extensive criminal record. Sounds as if somebody who doesn't like you, but the things that are actionable happen to be true.
Well, also she's been...
What do you want? I mean, it better be relevant.
Yes.
Well, first give me your name.
My name is Alicia Reeves, and this is my cell phone. I have text messages on here where Ewan was sending me text messages, not even knowing my relationship with John. She doesn't know anything about me. She's never met me before. And she sent me text messages basically threatening to contact people that are my family members.
Just a second. Just a second. Did you ever text message this lady?
I text her to get a hold
Just
of
answer my question.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever text her after he moved out?
Yes, to get my stuff. Yes, ma'am.
Can you read to me the text messages, please?
Can you have her read two-sided stories?
Just a second. If you were afraid of him, and if he assaulted you, and if he was the one who was responsible for precipitating the assault, what you would have done is stayed as far away from him and his friends as possible. That's what normal people do. Now, I want to hear the text message.
Okay, I just want to preface this to explain to you that she sent additional text messages to me that were very hurtful.
I don't care.
I erased those because I didn't want to see them.
don't
Here's what she
care.
did send them. She said, "So is Linda like your aunt or cousin? I'm only asking because I bet she would love how to hear how you're with John, and I'm not with him."
Listen. I don't want to hear you editorializing, if you know what that means. I asked you to do me a favor and just read me the text message.
Can you have her read what she wrote to me?
I'm only
I don't
asking-
care what she wrote to you. She didn't start writing to you.
So this is the reason why I didn't know they were together, because she told me they were together.
Listen to me. I want to get a sense of what's in your brain when someone allegedly assaults you and you try to keep in contact with them. Go.
I'm only asking because I bet she would love to hear how you're with John if you don't get me my stuff back. I bet Grandma Claudia wouldn't approve of that language because I told her to go away. So would Linda, I'm assuming she's your aunt, basically threatening to contact my family members if I didn't get her
Is that it?
stuff.
No.
Is that it? Don't tell me basically. I'm not interested in
That
basically.
is
I
the-
asked you to read me the text messages.
John, I don't want that read on TV, please. It's embarrassing to me what she said.
Good. Then you can sit down.
That is the extent of what I saved on my text messages. Like I said, I deleted them because I didn't want to see hurtful text messages from somebody who doesn't know me.
He texted me 3 weeks ago trying to get back with me.
He owes you $76 for car parts.
And I told him
You
no.
owe... Quiet. You owe him $500 for throwing his stuff out on the lawn and ruining some of it, which means that you owe him $424.
What about the assault, though?
Now, I'm going to explain to you about the assault. I have to make a decision with regard to this assault claim as to who was the aggressor and who was not. Put your hand down, madam. Put your hand down, madam. Now I'm ruling. He left the house. You followed him. Not only did you follow him, but you got into the car. And you were furious because you had contacted him when he was at her house. In addition to that, when the police came, you lied to them.
Because he
according
threatened to kill...
according to you, you lied to them. Now, you're going to tell me I lied to them because he threatened me. Somebody who feels threatened doesn't take all somebody's property and throw it out in the rain, snow, or sleet of Buffalo because all the stuff is covered with snow.
Can I say something about that?
I'm speaking.
He returned to the house and got arrested that night, though.
Listen, you don't look like a shrinking violet.
I know. But
you don't
the police
look like
officers told him not to return back to the house
speaking,
that night.
I'm speaking. What part of I'm speaking don't you understand? You owe him $424. You cannot put his stuff out and leave it there to be destroyed. As far as the defamation is concerned, anything she wrote on her face page about you or on the internet was true. You've been arrested several times. You've been convicted of a felony. All that is true. Those are the only things that are actionable. The rest of them are all sort of puffing. Says you take advantage of women. Well, that's her perspective of what you do. And in some ways, that's true. Did you pay rent for the 3.5 weeks you were living
She
with
never
her?
asked me for
I'm
rent.
speaking. The answer is either yes or no, not that she asked you.
No.
Good. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He threatened my brother because my brother would never say hello to him, and he said that's disrespectful.
Janice Clark for medical bills and damages after Janice's 11-year-old daughter poured scalding water on her 5-year-old son.
Order. All rise. That's case number 344 on the calendar in the matter of Crawford versus Clark. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Young folks have a seat.
Miss Crawford, it is your claim that Miss Clark's daughter injured your son.
Yes.
Your son is 5. Your daughter is how old?
11.
And you want Miss Clark to be responsible not only for medical bills, but for his pain and suffering.
Yes.
Miss Clark says you are responsible because you should have been watching your son more carefully. Your son is responsible because he was misbehaving. Everyone's responsible except her daughter. Right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Over here. What's your first name?
Cameo?
You know this young man?
Yes, I do.
What's his name?
Devontae Crawford.
Do you remember when this incident happened?
Yes, I do.
What's the date?
June 20th, 2008.
You were in your house?
Yes.
Do you have a private house or an apartment?
Apartment.
What floor do you live on?
First floor.
Who was home with you?
Actually, I was staying with my auntie.
So was this in your house or your aunt's house?
My house.
So you were home, and who was home with you?
Nobody.
You were home alone?
Yes.
How long had you been home alone?
I only came downstairs for like 5 minutes.
Your aunt lives in the building?
Yes.
So you had your own key to get into the house?
Yes, I do.
What time was that?
I don't remember.
Morning, afternoon, or evening?
Afternoon.
Was it a school day or a non-school day?
It was a school day, but I didn't go to school.
Why didn't you go to school?
Because my graduation was on Monday and I had to do my hair.
Who was doing your hair?
Actually, that day I was pulling it out.
What does that mean?
Like I was pulling out the braids on my hair to do it.
And you were doing that in whose house?
My house.
Where was your mother?
She had went to work.
So you weren't at your aunt's house. If you were pulling out your hair, you just told me you were at your house. What time did you
Yeah.
go to your aunt's house?
When my mom was leaving, she brought me up there.
Did your mother know you were staying home from school?
Yes.
How do you do in school?
I'm a really well-behaved child.
How do you do academically in school?
Really good.
Okay, so now why don't you tell me what happened when you were in your house with Devontae?
I was actually upstairs with my auntie where my mom dropped me off. And I came downstairs.
Don't look over there, look over here.
And I came downstairs to give my brother something, but when I came down there, he wasn't there. So then I came inside, and I heard him throwing things out the window. So
Just a minute. What did you go inside your apartment for if your brother wasn't there?
I went inside there for icy.
So you went inside to get something to eat?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then I heard him throwing things at the window, and I went there.
Who throwing things at the window?
These, like, a lot of kids in the backyard.
And what were they doing in the back?
They was fooling around and throwing rocks at the window.
Which window?
My window.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
So when I looked out the window and I told them to stop, and they told the rest of them not to listen to me. So I tried to scare them by throwing out the water out the window.
What water?
The water from the pipe. So I was trying to
What pipe?
The kitchen pipe.
You got water from the kitchen sink?
Yeah.
Hot water?
No, not hot water.
Well, Devontae was burned.
The first few times when I was throwing the water, it was not hot.
But then you kept throwing the water.
Yeah, until like the water eventually got hot. And then when I finally someone I threw it out, I heard somebody scream. So I went outside to see what happened when his mother and his family was actually yelling at me. And she said she was gonna call the cops, so I got scared and ran.
So you stayed downstairs for quite a while.
Yeah.
You weren't supposed to be there alone, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I wasn't supposed to be in there.
Alone?
Yeah.
At all? Right?
Yes.
Your claim, Miss Crawford, is that your son was injured and he had at least second-degree burns on part of his body.
Yes.
Do you have the medical records?
Yes.
I'd like to see them, please. Ms. Clark, you do understand that Ms. Crawford's son had second-degree burns on his body as a result of what your daughter did?
Yes, Your Honor.
So what I'd like you to do is try to explain to me, madam, why you do not think that you are responsible minimally to pay the medical bills, inasmuch as your daughter was home from school for no reason, violation of the education law, unsupervised, because while you may have left her upstairs, she clearly violated your rule and was downstairs alone. Because if you think I believe this whole story about, she went in for an ice pop, I don't believe that, and neither should you. So somebody has to pay these medical bills. Now you're going to explain to me why you think it shouldn't be you, as the parent of this young lady, who caused the damage.
Okay, I felt like I was responsible because he was in the back of the building, and that's something that I'm not going to say only him, a whole bunch of kids, they do on a daily basis. I will come home from work and there'll be rocks in my bathroom because I be leaving the bathroom window open a little bit from them staying in the back of the building and throwing rocks. When I spoke to Miss Crawford after the incident, me and my mom went to her house the same evening because I was at work, and my sister-in-law called me at work because that's obviously where she ran to after she was confronted by Miss Dawn about what she did. And my sister-in-law called me at work. I work like 2 hours from home, so it took me a while to get home. When I got there, my mom already went and got her back from my sister-in-law. They spoke to the cops, so I went and asked her family. They told me she didn't come back from the emergency room yet. I seen her the next day, and she told me he would be all right if he just takes the medication. I seen him on a couple of occasions, and she kept telling me he was fine. So I didn't know I was going to be held responsible for a bill.
Do you think that you're responsible for the bill? Do you think that your daughter's responsible for the bill?
Well, my daughter is a minor, and I'm a mom.
Right,
so.
She's a minor. So then that would mean that if she would be responsible, you would have to pay the bill as her mother.
Well, she didn't know it was hot. I guess she turned the faucet on and kept running back and forth, so eventually...
That's what she did.
I guess it got hot.
You say she put water in a cup and threw it down at the children, but that's really not what happened. What happened is she kept going back and forth, right?
Yeah.
She threw a lot of water at the children.
Used that. She told me she did it 3 times.
Do you believe her?
Yeah, I believe that.
Okay.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dawn Crawford says 11-year-old Cameo Forbes poured scalding water on her 5-year-old son, causing second-degree burns.
Okay. Your name is?
Devontae Williams.
Okay, so you were throwing some rocks at the window?
No, it was other people, her cousin.
Whose cousin?
Camille's.
Is that her name, Camille or Cameo?
I don't know her real name. We just call her Camille.
So Camille's cousin was in the back?
Yeah.
How old is that person?
7.
Was that person throwing rocks?
Yes.
Get up. Stand next to your mother. Was your cousin throwing rocks? You better tell me the truth. You looked outside. Was your cousin there?
Yes, she was there.
Did you throw water at her?
Yes.
Did you tell your mother she was throwing rocks?
Yes, I did.
She told me she was throwing rocks. My niece told me she was back there doing it too.
Did you see anybody else throwing rocks? Just make sure you answer the question. Did you see anybody else other than your cousin throwing rocks?
Yes, I did.
Who?
Like her little friends and these other kids.
Do you know who they were?
Yes, I do.
Now you can go sit down. You know you did the wrong thing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You are absolutely 100% responsible for the medical bills that Ms. Crawford had for her child. What were your medical bills?
The medical bills, the total is $1,773.91.
She's bigger than you are. She can cause a lot of damage if she doesn't do the right thing. You understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
What do you think would have happened if she scalded and caused second-degree burns on your niece?
I'll be in the same amount of trouble as I am today, Your Honor.
Oh, a lot of trouble in your family, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Of course. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,773.
I have pictures of the damages.
I'd like to see. Terrible. Ms. Crawford, if this was an adult, I guarantee you, you would receive punitive damages. You understand that?
Yes.
She may be a big girl for her age, but she's still 11.
And she was 10 when it actually happened.
Terrible, terrible scars. Have you seen these pictures?
No.
Well, I want you to come up here. It's pretty bad, isn't it?
Yes.
Think that hurt a lot?
Yes.
Think you owe him an apology?
I already did.
Good girl.
She never did. Yes, she did.
Yes, I did.
I made
When?
sure she did.
Shh. When did you apologize to
When
him?
I came back from Jamaica, like, they was outside playing, and I went outside, and he was like, hi, come here, and I was like, hi, Devontae, I'm sorry.
Did she say sorry to you, Devontae?
Yes, I did. I
Well,
have witness.
Okay. You owe him a big-time apology. Did you apologize to him right after it happened?
No, because right after it happened, I didn't see him.
You should have gone over to see him.
I wanted to take her, but she said she was scared, so I went by myself with my mother.
You should have taken her over there. Take these back and show them to your mother.
She was supposed to show me the pictures because my sister said
Just
she was
a second.
gonna show
Don't
me,
blame
but she
anybody
never-
else.
I'm not,
Don't
Your
blame
Honor.
it. Just take a look at those pictures, and I want you to think what you would have done if somebody did that to your daughter when she was 5. Do you have any idea what you would have done?
I'll be upset, but
Upset?
I don't know what level I would take it to, Your Honor, but I know I'll be upset.
Go back to your mom. Children are not supposed to be left unsupervised.
I didn't leave her unsupervised, Your Honor. She was supposed to be with my sister, like she told you.
Then your sister was irresponsible because your daughter was downstairs in the apartment for more than 5 minutes. She told me 5 minutes, but she decided to take care of her hair downstairs in the apartment.
She was not supposed to. My sister, what happened, why she didn't go to school?
I know.
She wasn't supposed to be down
I know. Your sister did not do the right thing. But ultimately, you're the parent. So if somebody did this to your daughter when she was 5 or 11, you would be furious, right?
there. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. You feeling all right now?
Yes.
You're not going to throw rocks, are you?
No.
Good. Don't hang around with people that throw rocks either. Okay? Good. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm going to take responsibility for what happened, and I agree with the judge.
My son really suffered. He had a lot of damages.
There's always kids back there throwing rocks out the window.
She did it on purpose. She told me she did it on purpose.
She was just tearful and scared because Devontae actually, she said, was her friend and she didn't mean to hurt him.
She came out the window and she started pouring water.
I heard him scream in the backyard.
That's when I seen Camille in the doorway saying, I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to do it.
Everybody was just yelling at me. I didn't even get to see him.
She was saying that she poured boiling water out the window and she didn't mean to do it on Devontae.
I should not throw hot water through the window on nobody.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Horsley versus Denon. Step forward, please.
Johnny Horsley is suing horse trainer Linda Denon for the return of a saddle. Johnny says his 15-year-old granddaughter sold it to her without his permission.
Mr. Horsley, I assume this is your granddaughter.
Yes, Judge.
And she was staying with you?
Yes, ma'am.
For how long?
She's usually there on the weekends, plus all summer.
According to your complaint, you let your granddaughter borrow your saddle, a saddle that you owned.
Yes, ma'am.
And it was an expensive saddle, and she sold that saddle without your permission to the defendant.
Yes,
You want the saddle back.
definitely.
And Ms. Denon says she sold it to somebody else.
Yes.
Okay, step up. How do you know Ms. Denon?
They're our neighbors. See them riding down the road every now and then.
Do they have horses?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you ride horses there?
Not with them, but at my grandparents', yes.
Tell me about this saddle.
Our neighbor gave it to us as a gift.
Gave it to who as a gift?
My grandfather.
To me.
Shh, I'm not speaking to you. When?
Sometime over the summer.
Was it a used saddle or a new one?
It was new, but it was 3 years old.
Did you pay for the saddle, Mr. Horsley?
No, ma'am. It was given to me by my neighbor. It still had the price tags on it. It had never been on a horse.
Could you tell me why she gave you such an expensive gift?
I do a lot for my neighbor. She's divorced, and she has 20 acres, and I help her a lot.
And what was the price tag on the saddle?
She paid, with tax and everything, a little over $2,000, ma'am.
And you allowed your granddaughter to use it for the first time?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you do with it?
I just used it on my horse.
Well, tell me how it came about that you sold it to the defendant.
I was riding one day, and her daughter-in-law invited me to go riding with some of the girls that ride down there with them. And we were just talking, and I brought up that one of her saddles looked like mine. And I brought up that I had two, and I was thinking about selling the one that I didn't use. And just came about that she wanted to go look at it because she was interested in it, and just took her down there and see the saddle.
Well, how could you sell something that wasn't yours?
At the time, I thought it was mine.
What made you think that it was yours?
Because I thought that the neighbor gave it to me as a gift because it was using it.
Explain that to me.
I thought she was gonna like let me use it on my horse, so I thought it was gonna be mine.
So you thought it was your saddle to sell?
Yes.
How much did you sell it for?
I sold it for $250.
Did Miss Denon ask you if you could sell it, if it was yours?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you say?
I said it was mine, and that I was thinking about selling it because I had no use for it because it didn't fit my horse.
It didn't fit your horse?
No, ma'am.
And on what date did you actually give her the saddle?
On August 23rd.
And when did you tell your grandfather that you would sold the saddle?
The same day.
And what did he say to you?
He wasn't very happy about it.
And when, Mr. Horsley, did you contact Miss Denon about getting it back?
The next day, on the 24th, on a Sunday.
Go ahead. I'll hear you now.
Yes, he contacted us. I had already picked up the saddle and taken it to a friend of mine who wanted the saddle for her granddaughter. And I met her partway between Orlando and Tampa, exchanged the saddle for the money. Originally, she had asked $150 for it, and we said that we felt that it was worth more than that. We offered her $250 because it was in very good condition. It was a good saddle.
Give me the name of the person who you exchanged it with within a 24-hour period.
Jean.
She a friend of yours?
Yes.
And how much did you sell it to her for?
$250.
And you sold it for $250 because you knew that it was a $2,000 saddle.
No, I sold it for $250 because in the market the way it is today, nobody's paying what they should pay for saddles or what you could get a few years ago.
It was less than 24 hours that Mr. Horsley contacted you. When did you contact Jean and tell her that you had this saddle?
On August 23rd, while the saddle and Christine was still in the house, I called Jean.
Then you better get the saddle back from Jean. I don't like the way you do business. Your responsibility is to get it back from your friend Jean, who wasn't even a buyer in due course, because you had a brand new saddle that you were paying 10% on the dollar on, and you were buying it from somebody who was underage. I can't even say it's a good faith sale.
There is no way for us to know she was underage.
I could look at her and could tell.
Today she looks underage.
Miss Denon, that's your problem. The law doesn't give you that luxury. The law says she is underage. Your responsibility is to get the saddle back from your friend Jean. Do it.
She won't give it back to me.
Really?
No.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. Then you deal with that.